Chapter 13-14. System. Hidden Dungeon Quest 5 has been completed. You have returned to Luban's side. The journey back was very smooth. The people from the Heavenly Court didn't show up at all. Gu-Han and the others easily returned to the underground palace of Xianying Airport and saw Luban, but compared to the last time they met, this underground palace was now filled with people, or rather, a sea of primordial mountains and primordial seas. Who knew how many primordial bandits were living in this underground palace? It wasn't like the first time Gu-Han came here. Aside from Luban, there wasn't a single primordial bandit. All of the primordial bandits had been moved away. Master. Lu Shihua walked over with a slightly dissatisfied expression. 3 days ago, when they left to collect souls, Gu-Han had forced Lu Shihua to stay. Gu-Han's reason was very straightforward. Lu Shihua was not strong enough. If he went, he might cause more trouble. So, Gu-Han had Lu Shihua stay. Very well. Mr. Military Governor, take out the peach tree of immortality you collected. Gu-Han took out the peach tree of immortality the moment Luban finished speaking. Luban nodded. Then, I'll have to trouble Mr. Military Governor to cut this peach tree of immortality into 6 equal pieces. System. Hidden Dungeon Quest 6 has been generated. Please cut the peach tree of immortality into 6 pieces and carve the 6 pieces of peach tree of immortality into the likeness of the great sages. Cut it into 6 pieces. Seeing the quest prompt, Gu-Han pondered for a moment and understood Luban's intention. Lord Luban, are you planning to use this peach tree of immortality as the bodies for the resurrection of the 6 great sages? Gu-Han asked directly. I didn't expect you to be able to figure that out. Luban praised and nodded. That's right. This peach tree of immortality is the wood of longevity. It is also the most suitable material for storing souls. If you use this peach tree of immortality to carve the bodies and combine it with the 3 innate materials, you can resurrect the 6 great sages. This is great. The 6 great sages can finally be resurrected. Hearing Luban's words, Artoria was the first to cheer excitedly. This emotion spread throughout the underground palace, and everyone cheered with her. Once the 6 great sages were resurrected, it meant that the 800 years of struggling at death's door and hiding were finally over. How could this not make the remaining Yuan Ko's cheer? Gu-Han frowned slightly when he heard the cheers around him. He immediately asked Luban, can this peach tree be divided into 7 parts? 7 portions? Luban's expression was one of shock. Artoria, who was beside him, immediately reacted. She walked up to Luban and whispered a few words in his ear. She had obviously told Luban about I Ching. So you wanted to resurrect Zhetian Jiendi as well. Can you guarantee that Zhejiendi will be on our side? Luban said with some uncertainty. You know, this mission is extremely important. If anything goes wrong, forget about the millions of souls, Military Governor, you must not be harmed at all. I know that. Gu-Han nodded. I can guarantee that Zhetian Jiendi will definitely be on our side. If Zhetian Jiendi is here, our chances of completing this mission will be even higher. This. Luban hesitated for a moment before saying, I'm afraid there's still a problem. Even if we divide the peach tree into 7 parts, we still need to carve out the original appearances of the 6 great sages. I have the appearance of all 6 great sages in my mind, and I believe I can carve out their appearances accurately. However, I've never seen Zhetian Jiendi before, so I'm afraid I won't be able to carve out her appearance. That's not a problem. Just leave it to me. Gu-Han said nonchalantly. Mr. Admiral, don't think that this is a simple matter. To put it bluntly, even with this old man's talent, without 40 years of painstaking cultivation, I still can't say that I can sculpt the 6 great sages with 100% accuracy. Aren't you oversimplifying things by patting your chest and making a promise? Luban's tone was a little displeased. Lu Ban was known as the god of carpentry in the history of mankind. He was the ancestor of all carpentry, and his carving skills were naturally superb. Even Lu Ban needed 40 years of hard work before he could say that he could carve peach wood. Gu Han, a young man in his early 20s, who had never touched carpentry before, dared to say that he could carve peach wood. Lu Ban was a little displeased that Gu Han, a young man in his early 20s who had never touched carpentry before, dared to boast like that. "It's fine. I can do it." Gu Han ignored Lu Ban's displeasure and insisted. "Fine. Then cut it into 7 pieces." Lu Ban could do nothing about Gu Han, so he reluctantly agreed. However, before that, Lu Ban asked Gu Han to take out the living soil of the 9 heavens. He divided it into 7 pieces and placed them on each side of the peach tree. In Lu Ban's words, the 7 pieces would be used to temporarily absorb the souls condensed in the peach tree. After waiting for about an hour, Lu Ban suddenly shouted, "Do it!" 6 streaks of sword light flashed, and the heavenly peach tree was evenly divided into 6 sections. Each section was around 1.8 meters in length, so it wouldn't be an issue for them to carve out the appearance of a normal human. "Since you insist on carving Zhetianjiandi, I'll give you this peach tree. I hope you can finish carving this before I finish the other 6. Otherwise, you'll waste too much time." Lu Ban handed one of the peach trees to Gu Han. "Finally, it's time to use you again, my old friends." Lu Ban took out a very simple-looking carpenter's tools and stroked them affectionately. After that, he began to work on the 6 pieces of peach tree. Lu Ban lived up to his reputation as the legendary god of carpentry. All his movements were orderly, and the knife in his hand was superb. In just an hour, a piece of coarse peach wood had been transformed into a human figure in Lu Ban's hands. If it were not for the fact that the color of the wood was so different from that of a real person, everyone would have thought that it was a living person lying there at first glance. "I'm getting old. It took me more than an hour to carve such a small person." Lu Ban, who had finished carving the first person, rubbed his shoulder and deliberately spoke in Gu Han's direction. At the same time, his eyes unconsciously drifted to Gu Han's position. He wanted to see how the puppet that Gu Han was carving was doing. However, as soon as he saw Lu Ban, he was so angry that his beard could not stop blowing. Gu Han was not doing anything. He was just sitting in front of the peach tree and meditating. He did not seem to have any intention of doing anything. "Is this military governor going to trouble me to do it in the end?" Lu Ban sighed in his heart. He had no other choice but to continue carving the peach tree. However, the following process was not as smooth as the first peach tree. As his energy continued to be consumed, Lu Ban's spirit continued to decline, and it took more and more time to carve. In the end, when Lu Ban finished carving all 6 figures, 20 hours had passed. Including the time that Gu Han had spent collecting souls, 4.5 days had passed since the 1-week deadline. Gu Han only had about 2.5 days left. "Mr. Military Governor, if you really can't carve it, give me a photo, and I'll try to carve it for you according to the photo," Lu Ban said helplessly when he saw that the peach tree in front of Gu Han was still not moving. However, in the face of Lu Ban's kindness, Gu Han did not move at all. He was still quietly sitting in a meditative posture, looking calm and collected. "Ah. In the end, I still have to do it myself." Lu Ban smiled bitterly and reached out to move the peach tree in front of Gu Han. However, when Lu Ban was less than a meter away from Gu Han, a piercing sword energy suddenly erupted, and Lu Ban was pushed back by the sword energy. His right hand was instantly drenched in blood. "Master Lu Ban, are you okay?" Artoria quickly rushed over when she saw Lu Ban's injury. Lu Ban exclaimed, "What a powerful sword energy! I can't believe it could injure my hand so badly in such a short time. Amazing! Amazing!" This was indeed an extremely amazing thing. After all, no matter how weak Lu Ban was, he was still a universe-level Yuan Ko. Without absolute strength, It was impossible to injure a universe-level Yuan Ko's hand so badly in such a short time. You bastard, how dare you hurt Lord Lu Ban? Take this, the power of Noxus. When Trius saw that Lu Ban was injured, he immediately swung his big axe and chopped at Gohan's head. Stop! Just as Trius's axe was about to land on the defenseless Gohan's head, a blue sword energy appeared out of nowhere and blocked Trius's axe. You can't hurt him, Artoria said calmly. After fighting alongside Gohan, Artoria understood that Gohan was an indispensable combat force in this operation. He might even be the key to the final victory or defeat. She couldn't let Gohan get hurt. Bang! At this moment, Gohan, who had been in a meditative state, raised his hands and pulled out the immortal extinguishing sword and the immortal slaying sword at the same time. Countless sword energies, as fine as scalpels, gushed out of the two swords and struck the peach tree in front of Gohan. Sawdust filled the entire underground palace like snowflakes. Those who were closest to Gohan couldn't even see the faces of the people around them. They were all covered in light yellow sawdust. The dust came and went quickly. In less than a minute, all the dust had fallen. At this moment, a woman as gentle as water was born under Gohan's sword energy. Chapter 13-15. Amazing! Even Lu Ban could not help but exclaim in admiration when he saw Gohan's sculpture. This sculpture had both spirit and form. Even if it could not compare to Lu Ban's sculpture, the difference was almost the same. So, Lu Ban could not help but ask, "Kid, have you practiced carpentry before?" "No." Gohan shook his head. "That's strange then. Such craftsmanship. Such details. Such essence, chi, and spirit." Lu Ban walked around I Ching's sculpture for a long time. In the end, he could not help but say to Gohan, "Why don't you learn carpentry from me? I promise you'll finish your apprenticeship in 3 years. The title of the world's #1 carpenter will be yours." "Senior Lu Ban, you're too humble. I don't have any talent for carpentry." Gohan smiled. "I'm just condensing my thoughts together and presenting them on this peach tree. This is just a trick of the sword chi. I still don't know anything about carpentry. At most, I'm a brilliant sculptor. Even if I study for another 30 years, the title of the world's #1 carpenter will still belong to you." Of course, Gohan could not accept Lu Ban's invitation. Lu Ban was just an NPC in a dungeon. Even if he left this dungeon, Lu Ban would still exist in the game. He could no longer enter the game. Seeing that Gohan had rejected him, Lu Ban sighed and did not say anything else. He placed the 7 wooden sculptures side by side, took out the living soil of the 9 heavens that he had prepared earlier, and scattered it on the 7 wooden sculptures. The living soil of the 9 heavens was spread evenly, covering the 7 wooden sculptures like a black membrane. "Mr. Military Governor, take out your water of Tai and sprinkle it on these wooden sculptures," Lu Ban said to Gohan. Gohan nodded and took out the water of Tai from his dimensional pocket. Following Lu Ban's instructions, he sprinkled it evenly on the wooden sculptures. The moment the water of Tai came into contact with the living soil of the 9 heavens, something magical happened. The thin layer of living soil of the 9 heavens suddenly grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. It looked like a dry sponge that was absorbing water crazily. In the end, when all the water of Tai was used up, the thin layer of living soil of the 9 heavens had turned into a thick mass of soil. To put it bluntly, it looked like 7 burial mounds. Legend has it that the living soil of the 9 heavens is the source of all soil in the world. It is the source of all soil in the world. It was even said that when the Milky Way broke apart all those years ago, the innate water within the Milky Way flowed into the earth. In the end, it was goddess Nuwa who refined rocks to mend the heavens. She used the 5-colored divine stones to refine the 9 heavens life soil, and she used the 9 heavens life soil to plug up the hole in the sky and save the entire world. I didn't expect this legend to be true. Liu Ling mumbled to herself. Her family had stored a large amount of information from before the Great Apocalypse, so it was not surprising that she knew about the living soil of the nine heavens. That's right. Lu Ban nodded. Because the living soil of the nine heavens has an endless ability to grow. Combined with the natural source of Tai water and the immortality peach wood, the basic materials for resurrection are all gathered. Now, all that's left is to use the true fire of nine yang to forge these materials. Understood. Guhan took out the last bit of the true fire of nine yang in his hand. He split it into 7 small flames and threw them onto the living soil of the nine heavens. Logically speaking, when the flames touch the soil, they should be extinguished very quickly. But in reality, the true fire of nine yang ignited the living soil of the nine heavens. The 7 burial mounds were burning wildly. The true fire of nine yang burned for an unknown period of time. Suddenly, the burial mounds began to tremble slightly. Finally, a jet-black head broke out of the soil like a young seedling. This scene gave Lu Shihua a fright. Half a head suddenly grew out of the soil. This was truly frightening. The jet-black hair was just the beginning. Gradually, a complete head grew out of the burial mound. Guhan could clearly tell that this head was the same as the one Lu Ban had carved. However, this head was no longer a wooden head. Instead, it looked no different from a real person. These freshly carved wooden sculptures actually grew out of the grave like trees. Of course, this growth rate was far faster than the normal growth rate. Guhan observed for a moment and found that all the great sages grew at different rates. Some were so fast that half of their bodies had already grown out. For example, this Yuan Ko had 8 different faces on his head. Guhan recognized this Yuan Ko. He was the famous Yamada no Orochi, one of the only 2 desolate-level Yuan Ko in the Fuso divine system. In reality, this Yamada no Orochi died in the hands of Gu Jin Jiendi about 100 years ago. He did not expect to become one of the 6 great sages of Yuan Ko in the dungeon world. Although Yamada no Orochi was one of the desolate-level Yuan Ko, Yamada no Orochi was the weakest among the desolate-level Yuan Ko. Otherwise, it would not have been so easily defeated by Gu Jin Jiendi, who had just ascended to the throne. The second fastest was Yuan Ko, who wore leather and had eyes like salted duck eggs. Guhan recognized this Yuan Ko at a glance. He was the strongest of the Ultraman clan, the Ultra King. This Yuan Ko had died in the hands of humans more than 400 years ago. The Ultra Clan had also joined the Freedom faction and rarely appeared on human battlefield. The third and fourth fastest were Jiendi the Heaven's Equal and Jiendi the Heaven's Equal. The fifth fastest was our comrade Zeus. Speaking of which, this Yuan Ko and Guhan had some history. It was precisely because of Zeus' death that the entire Norse pantheon collapsed. Loki also took the opportunity to become independent, bringing great trouble to Yuzhong City. Among the 6 great sages, the slowest one was a female great sage. When her head grew out completely, the fastest was Orochi, whose upper body was about to grow out completely. Seeing this female great sage, Guhan's expression couldn't help but be a little puzzled. In all the information of Yuanko that Guhan had, it seemed that he had never seen a female great sage who looked like this. It's Sister Zetian. On the contrary, Liuyan Ling could not help but let out a cry of surprise after seeing the female great sage's face. You know her? Guhan immediately asked curiously. Yes. Liuyan Ling nodded and said in surprise, she is Wu Zetian's sister. She is our family's guest, but she does not like to go out. She only likes to stay in her room and play games. When I was young, I trained every day. It was rare that I had time to rest. I spent it at Sister Wu Zetian's place playing games. But Sister Wu Zetian always said that she was just a nether-level guest. How did she become one of the 6 great sages? It seemed that this was what shocked Liuyan Ling the most. There is nothing strange about this. Great Sage Zetian is best at hiding her strength. When she tries her best to hide her strength, you will find that she is not even as good as the weakest human girl. Lu Ban walked up to Liuyan Ling and explained. Wu Zetian. I think I have seen this name before. Gohan recalled for a moment. By the way, Li Bai once told me that he once wrote a poem to an empress. The empress even invited Li Bai to stay in her palace for the night, but Li Bai has a free and easy nature and does not like the rich and powerful, so he rejected the empress. I think this empress's name is Wu Zetian. Ahem. Lu Ban coughed. He knew the most about Li Bai and Wu Zetian. When Li Bai met Wu Zetian, she was probably an old woman who was almost 80 years old. It would be strange if the handsome and arrogant Li Bai was willing to serve an old woman like Wu Zetian. When Wu Zetian's upper body gradually grew out of the grave, Gohan's expression instantly changed. This was because Wu Zetian's upper body was completely naked, even though the crucial parts had yet to grow out. Although the crucial part had not yet grown out, it was not hard to imagine that when the crucial part emerged from the soil, it would be completely naked. Gohan did not care about Wu Zetian's naked body, but Gohan was concerned about another person's body. Gohan quickly looked at the seventh grave. I Ching was the slowest to grow. When Wu Zetian's upper body was about to emerge, I Ching had only just revealed half of his head. If I Ching's entire body grew out, wouldn't he be like Wu Zetian? Thinking of this, Gohan could not remain calm. He took out his extinguish immortal sword and shot out dozens of sword chi whirlwinds, completely surrounding I Ching's area. The sword chi whirlwinds appeared to be a vast expanse of white. This way, no one from the outside could see what was going on inside the sword chi whirlwinds. Naturally, it was impossible to see I Ching's body that was about to grow out. Then, Gohan walked directly into the sword chi whirlwinds. When he was done, he gave the surrounding Yuan Kos a warning look. His meaning was clear. If anyone dared to enter, he would kill them. Haha. This little guy is so protective of his food. Lu Ban could not help but laugh when he saw this scene. Me too. Gohan's action reminded Liuyan Ling. She followed suit and shot out a sword chi whirlwind to protect Wu Zetian's body. Although Wu Zetian and Liuyan Ling in this instance dungeon had nothing to do with each other, when she thought about how she used to play games with Wu Zetian as a child, Liuyan Ling felt the need to protect her. Chapter 13-16. Ha 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 ha. I'm finally resurrected. After an unknown period of time, a beast-like roar and roar suddenly sounded in the underground palace. This meant that the first great sage was finally resurrected. Greetings, great sage Sky Sweeping. This great sage Sky Sweeping was naturally referring to the desolate level Yuan Ko Orochi, who had the fastest resurrection speed. All the Yuan Ko in the underground palace, including Artoria, knelt in front of the desolate level Yuan Ko and spoke with great respect and sincerity. What great sage Sky Sweeping! Why have I never heard of it? Hearing the congratulations of so many people, Orochi was happy, but there was a little displeasure on his face. Oh no, this great sage Sky Sweeping is. Hearing Orochi's words, everyone exclaimed and realized that they had said the wrong thing. This great sage Sky Sweeping was not the name of the 6 great sages when they were in power. Instead, it was the name given to them by the heavenly court when they were in power. Because the name itself was not insulting and sounded very impressive, over time, even Yuan Ko was used to calling them by the names of the 6 great sages. Hence, it was natural for him to recite it just now. But the problem was that Orochi did not know this, so there was such a change. Replying to the Venerable, Artoria took the initiative to stand up, walked to Orochi's side, and reported the truth honestly. Oh no. Hearing Artoria tell the truth so foolishly, Lu Ban's face suddenly changed. Orochi was the most bad-tempered, unreasonable, and overbearing desolate level Yuan Ko among the 6 great sages. If he heard everyone calling him by the name given by the enemy, he would definitely be angry. Sure enough, just as Lu Ban feared, something bad happened. When Orochi heard that the name Great Sage Sky Sweeping was given to him by the heavenly court, his ugly face became even more ferocious. Countless tentacles stretched out from his body in an instant. In an instant, he grabbed hundreds of Yuan Ko in the underground palace and roared, "How dare you call me by the name given by the enemy? I will teach you the rules with your blood." Orochi's behavior frightened all the Yuan Ko and humans present. They always thought that they resurrected a predecessor and a strong person who could give them a bright future. But they did not expect that the predecessor and the strong person would extend his tentacles to their own people as soon as he was resurrected. Orochi was just reciting a name that should not be recited, and Orochi was planning to retaliate with hundreds of lives. What was more frightening was that Orochi did not intend to kill these unlucky people directly. Instead, it kept tightening their bodies with its tentacles, forcing them to scream in pain. Orochi's 8 faces were full of joy. Obviously, it enjoyed this torture very much. Alas! This is the nature of Orochi. Seeing this, Lu Ban let out a helpless sigh. This was the nature of Orochi. He took pleasure in killing and torturing people. Even though he had just been resurrected, he did not care about kindness at all. Lu Ban really did not know whether it was right or wrong to resurrect such a guy. If there was anyone who felt the most pain when hearing such screams, it was undoubtedly Artoria. It was because of her rash and frank answer that these bandits suffered such terrible torture. Artoria could not bear it any longer. She walked directly to Orochi and said angrily, "Venerable One, we have spent so much effort and countless lives to bring you back to life. Is this how you treat our benefactors?" Benefactors? Orochi seemed to have heard a ridiculous joke. "You just want to use my power to destroy the heavenly court. This is just an equivalent deal. You resurrect me and I give you freedom. But this is not a fair deal. How can such a precious freedom be repaid by simply resurrecting me? Let the blood and screams be part of this deal." Ha 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 ha. Yamada no Orochi's crazy speech made all the Yuanko and humans in the underground palace filled with anger. "Are you kidding me? Don't tell me that the kindness of resurrecting your life isn't as precious as freedom? Do you really believe in death is better than freedom?" Although every Yuanko was full of anger, in the face of the crazy Orochi, no one dared to stand up and refute. Orochi was the only desolate level Yuanko in the entire underground palace. No one was a match for Orochi at all. They really brought this upon themselves. Thinking of this, Yuanko and the humans in the palace were extremely regretful. Why did they resurrect such a bastard? Beast. Lunatic. Venerable One, I am the leader of these people. I didn't think it through. All the mistakes are on me. Please let them go, Venerable One. I will bear all the punishment. Seeing that the situation was showing signs of getting out of control, Artoria bit her lip, knelt on one knee in front of Orochi, and took the initiative to speak. "You will bear it?" Orochi's 8 faces kept changing and finally, like an open reel, all 8 faces looked at Artoria at the same time. "What a beautiful woman," Orochi said in an extremely obscene voice. "Yes, I am very satisfied. You are a very perfect mating partner. You want to save the lives of these disrespectful people, right?" Orochi's 8 faces showed a playful expression at the same time. "Come on. Take off your clothes, take the initiative to hug the venerable Orochi's tentacles, and use your body to make him spit out happy liquid." Everyone understood the meaning of this sentence, but this was definitely a very serious case of sexual harassment. Interesting. Liu Ling and Lu Shihua watched the whole scene. Although there was a bit of sympathy on their faces, they had absolutely no intention of stepping forward to help. This was just a dungeon in a game, and it was a dog-eat-dog plot between Yuanko. The most important thing was that the woman being molested was Artoria. In the previous operation, Liu Ling instinctively sensed that Gohan had some special feelings for Artoria. This was the most unacceptable to Liu Ling, and she was happy to see Artoria being humiliated. Well, usually Liu Nianling was not such a petty person. But when this kind of thing happened between two women, it often became unreasonable, and this matter could not be speculated with common sense. Hearing Orochi's request, Artoria's expression froze. Her right hand clenched the sword of the lake in her hand, and the blue veins on her arm showed how angry Artoria was at this time. "Do you want to resist?" Orochi sneered. "Let's not talk about whether you are my opponent or not, but I guarantee that the lives of these hundreds of little guys will be gone on the spot." "You!" Artoria's hand finally loosened weakly, and her fingers slowly moved to her collar. It was obvious that Artoria was struggling internally, but she still decided to sacrifice herself for the lives of more than 100 people. This is the Virgin Mary syndrome. It has to be cured. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Artoria's ear, and at the same time, Artoria only felt a strong wind blowing, and a handsome and aloof figure stood in front of her. "This Guhan really has an affair with this woman Artoria." Seeing Guhan standing in front of Artoria at the critical moment, Liu Nianling suddenly muttered a little unhappily. He didn't show up for so long just now, and when Artoria was about to take off her clothes, he ran out. What was the difference between creating a sword energy vortex and standing in front of I Ching? A spirit sword level human? What a boring bug. Orochi saw through Guhan's level at a glance, and his 8 faces were full of disdain. He waved one of his tentacles casually, trying to pinch Guhan to death on the spot. Chaos Heaven Opening. In the face of the whizzing tentacle, Guhan just glanced at it coldly and used Chaos Heaven Opening to hit the tentacle. But this was not an ordinary Chaos Heaven Opening, but a Chaos Heaven Opening with Guhan's rule power. Orochi didn't expect that Guhan would have the rule power, so his tentacle was directly strangled into a pile of minced meat by Guhan. At the same time, countless white liquid contained in the tentacle sprinkled down like rain. Of course, Guhan wouldn't let his body be touched by such dirty liquid, so Guhan's sword energy swept all the liquid back into Orochi's body. "Human, you actually..." Finding that one of his tentacles was destroyed, Orochi was more vigilant than angry. An opponent who had the rule power was not easy to deal with. Although Guhan was only at the spirit sword level now, this was actually the most terrifying thing about him. "Human, aren't you afraid that I will kill your companions?" Orochi once again squeezed Yuan Ko, who was controlled by other tentacles, making them scream even more miserably. "Whatever. I'm not Yuenko. If you want to kill him, then kill him. What does it have to do with me?" Guhan said disdainfully. This caused Yamada no Orochi to be dumbfounded. What happened to the Holy Mother protagonist? "Human, aren't you afraid that I will kill you? The current you is still not my opponent." Orochi threatened fiercely. This was the truth. Orochi was a desolate level Yuan Ko, which was not something that Guhan could deal with now. "You can't kill me." Guhan smiled coldly. "As long as I escape, I'll immediately go to the Heavenly Court and tell them about your resurrection and where you're hiding. By the way, I forgot to tell you one thing. I was the one who found your immortality peach tree body, and I left a small mark in it. No matter where you are, even in the void, I'll be able to find you." This time, it was Orochi's turn to be captured by Guhan. He suddenly felt like he had been F***ed. "Orochi, put down our benefactor, or I, the Otto King, will be the first to kill you." Behind Orochi, a dignified, weathered, and righteous voice rang out. The second of the 6 saints, the Otto King, had successfully resurrected. Chapter 13-17. You want to help this human? Yamada no Orochi waved his tentacle and spoke to the Alt King with dissatisfaction. "I don't want to help this human. I want to help the justice of this universe," the Alt King said. "If it weren't for these juniors trying their best to revive us, you and I would be nothing more than lonely ghosts in the wild. If you dare hurt these people who saved our lives, I will kill you." It's just 100 or so unworthy little fellows. You actually want to fight me because of them. Yamada no Orochi was even angrier. The tension between him and the Alt-King was getting stronger. It looked like they were about to fight. If these two desolate-level Yuan-ko really started fighting in the underground palace, the entire underground palace would probably not exist anymore. It would be reduced to ashes in an instant. These buildings would not be able to withstand a battle between desolate-level powers. Yamada no Orochi, do you really want to fight us? Just as the situation was about to explode, a voice said. Then, a naked human with a body full of strong muscles stood next to the Ultra King. Obviously, this human was on the Alt King's side. Ping Tianjiendi, you want to help this skinned savage? Have you forgotten that your wife died at the hands of this skinned savage? Yamada no Orochi said angrily and confusedly. The third desolate-level elite that appeared was not a stranger. It was the human Ping Tianjiendi. From Yamada no Orochi's words, it could be heard that Ping Tianjiendi's wife had died at the hands of the Alt King. Ping Tianjiendi and the Alt King could be said to be mortal enemies. Back then, when the six of us formed an alliance, we already made it clear that we would temporarily put aside our past hatred. Once we destroy the Heavenly Court, we will settle our old debts. The Leveling Heaven's Sword Emperor said indifferently. If that's the case, then why are you helping this guy? Yamada no Orochi asked unhappily. Originally, I didn't want to help him. But if I'm not wrong, you were preparing to fight a new talent of the human race, a spiritual sword-level sword wielder. In the entire palace, there is only one immortal sword wielder and two spiritual sword wielder. There are also some weaker sword wielder of other levels. This spiritual sword wielder is the only remaining descendant of the human race. Why wouldn't I help him? Ping Tianjiendi said matter-of-factly. This. Yamada no Orochi hesitated. In order to protect the descendants of his own race, it was only natural that Ping Tianjiendi would help his descendant. He would definitely stand up for this human. Yamada no Orochi was the weakest among the six great sages. If Ping Tianjiendi and the Alt King worked together, he would definitely lose. Who wants to bully the younger generation of the human race? Another loud voice said. Hearing this voice, Yamada no Orochi completely gave up on the idea of fighting. A gloomy expression appeared on his face. This was the voice of Jiendi. Jiendi had also been resurrected after Ping Tianjiendi. The combined strength of the two human Jiendi was enough to chop Yamada no Orochi into thousands of pieces. Not to mention, there was also the Alt King helping them. Thinking of this, Yamada no Orochi completely understood that he could no longer confront these people. He had to admit defeat. He did not want to become a stray ghost again after being resurrected for only a few hours. Seeing that the situation had calmed down, Artoria and the others heaved a long sigh of relief. If they really fought in the underground palace, they would not be able to take revenge on the Heavenly Court. Even the remaining Yuan-ko would not be able to survive. Seeing that the situation had calmed down, Ping Tianjiendi waved his hand at Gohan and asked with a smile, What's your name? Your Majesty Ping Tian, my name is Military Governor. Hearing Ping Tianjiendi's call, Gohan walked up calmly. Although he addressed Ping Tianjiendi as Your Majesty, he did not treat him with much respect. At most, he treated him as an equal. This kid is interesting. Ping Tianjiendi smiled awkwardly and said with slight dissatisfaction, Are all humans as brave as you now? Don't they have any respect for their elders? I'm not the sword wielder of this world, so naturally, I'm not your junior. At the same time, I've spent a lot of effort to collect your souls. Honestly speaking, shouldn't you be thanking me? Gu Han said calmly. This. Ping Tianjiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi looked at each other. Clearly, they were shocked by Gohan's answer. Seeing the two Jiendi's expressions, Gohan did not wait for them to ask. He took the initiative to tell them about how he came from another dimension and how he resurrected them. I see. Ping Tianjiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi sighed and nodded. Back then, we also guessed that, if other dimensions really exist, would there be a world with sword-bearers like ours in other dimensions? Now, it seems like our guess was right. Such dimensions do exist. In that case, it's not appropriate for us to be your elders. We really have to thank you for saving our lives. The Heaven's equal Sword Emperor nodded. Then, a bitter smile appeared on his face as he said, "However, before the two of us thank you, can you help us with something?" "As long as it's within my means, I'll do it," Military Governor answered decisively. "Ahem. There are many juniors here. Do you think it's appropriate for us to be like this?" Ping Tianjiendi said awkwardly. It was only then that Gohan realized that the two Jiendis were still naked. They could only separate one hand to cover their lower bodies. It was needless to say how awkward they looked. "I've been careless." Gohan hurriedly took out 2 sets of clothes from his dimensional pocket and handed them to Ping Tianjiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi. Seeing the extremely convenient dimensional pocket in Gohan's hand, Heaven's equal Jiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi couldn't help but exclaim, "So the dimensional technology in your world has already developed to such a level." Heaven's equal Jiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi put on their clothes and chatted with Gohan for a while. Ping Tianjiendi pulled Heaven's equal Jiendi's hand to express their gratitude to Gohan. Of course, Gohan couldn't really accept the Jiendi's bow and gratitude. Both parties exchanged a few pleasantries. However, Gohan's status was already equal to Ping Tianjiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi. Of course, the most important reason why they could be equal was that Gohan had thrown a sword chi containing the rule power at the two Jiendis. It scared the two Jiendis so much that they had a horrified expression on their faces. A spirit sword level sword wielder with the rule power was really terrifying. Next, Gohan introduced his disciple Lu Shihua and Liuyan Ling to the two Jiendis. The two Jiendis only nodded at Lu Shihua and didn't pay much attention to him. However, when they heard Liuyan Ling's name, they instantly became excited and couldn't help asking, "Is Miss Liuyan Ling the descendant of Lord Kanzu?" "That's right." Liuyan Ling nodded her head. "That's great. I never thought that the Kanzu's bloodline could be passed down in another dimension. We feel much better now." Heaven's equal Jiendi sighed. "If it wasn't for Drifting Goblet's Jiendi's desperate battle, we wouldn't be able to live to this day." From Heaven's equal Jiendi's words, Gohan learned about the background story of this instant's dungeon. When Yanjing City was attacked by the Heavenly Court, Drifting Goblet Jiendi used his life to block the 5 desolate-level Yuan Kos from the Heavenly Court. That was how Heaven's equal Jiendi and Ping Tianjiendi, as well as a large number of sword ladies from Yanjing City's sword pavilion, managed to escape. Otherwise, Heaven's equal Jiendi and Ping Tianjiendi would have died, and there wouldn't be these two powerful sword-bearers now. When they heard that Liuyan Ling was Kanzu's descendant, the two Emperor sword-bearers treated Liuyan Ling differently. They were even more respectful than they were to Gohan. This made Gohan sigh. The Liuyan family's terrifying influence didn't just exist in the real world. Even a virtual instance dungeon had such a terrifying influence. Could the Liuyan family have stood strong for over 1,000 years? When Gohan and the other sword-bearers were chatting happily, there was movement from the grave mound. Odin. In the previous chapter, due to the author's terrible memory, he misremembered Zeus as the leader of Norse mythology. In fact, Zeus is the leader of Greek mythology, while Odin is the leader of Norse mythology. That's why I changed Zeus to Odin. After reviving, he walked out of the grave mound. Unlike the bearded Odin from the legends who looked like a bad-tempered old man and wielded the Lance of Eternity, the earring that appeared now was that of a handsome man with a graceful bearing. If it wasn't for the standard 12 muscles on his body, Gohan might have mistaken him for a Korean wave boy who popped out of nowhere. "I hope you've been well since we last met." Odin walked up to Ping Tianjiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi. Since Odin could revive after Ping Tianjiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi, It meant that Odin was more powerful than the two Gyendi. Odin was willing to take the initiative to greet these two sword emperors. From this, it could be seen that his conduct was not bad. In reality, as the king of gods of the Norse pantheon, if he did not have a few tricks up his sleeve, he would not be able to keep his seat. This little brother must be the friend who helped us revive. What a young talent! Amazing! Odin's compliment also landed on Gohan's, but, although Gohan did not fall for it, he had a better impression of Odin. I'm ashamed to say this, but when I revived just now, I looked at Her Majesty Wuzetian. Half of her legs have not grown back. It seems that my strength is still quite far from Her Majesty Wuzetian's, Odin said with a bitter smile. Chapter 13:18. While they were talking, Odin glanced thoughtfully at the clothes the Leveling Heaven Sword Emperor and Heaven's Equal Sword Emperor were wearing. Gohan immediately reacted, and took out a set of clothes from the dimensional pocket and handed it to Odin without a word. Odin thanked him and put on the clothes happily. Odin, who had put on the clothes, suddenly walked in front of Wuzetian, who was in the process of resurrecting. With a wave of his hands, the sword energy that Liuyan Ling had set up disappeared without a trace. At this time, Wuzetian was in the same state as Odin just now. At this time, Wuzetian was not the image of an 80-year-old woman when she died, but a 30-year-old woman in the prime of her life. Her skin was as smooth as the moon, and her figure was perfect to the extreme. Especially the pair of opium pies. It could not be said to be very big, but it could not be said to be very small either. It was the size that could be held in one hand. This was also the size that men were most obsessed with and admired. Furthermore, Wuzetian's appearance was just like her original name, Mainyang. She was extremely charming. Gohan had seen her with his own eyes, and he had seen her in pictures, but there was not a single person who could be as charming as Wuzetian. No wonder she was able to confuse Li Shimin and Li Ji, and finally become the legendary empress of a generation to replace the Tang dynasty. So beautiful! My queen! Odin could not help but exclaim in admiration. Pervert! Liuyan Ling muttered. Then, Liuyan Ling quickly found a set of her own clothes and put them on Wuzetian's exposed upper body to prevent this spring scenery from being exposed again. What a pity! What a pity! Seeing Wuzetian put on her clothes again, Odin said regretfully. After waiting for about half an hour, Wuzetian finally finished growing. She opened her eyes and walked out of the grave mound. Who put these clothes on me? Wuzetian asked as soon as she woke up. It's me, Sister Mainyang, Liuyan Ling said excitedly. She seemed to have forgotten one thing. This was not reality but a game dungeon. Her big sister Wu Mainyang did not recognize her at all. Get lost. Wuzetian pushed out with a single hand, and Liuyan Ling flew out without any resistance. If it wasn't for Ping Tianjiendi and Qi Tianjiendi's quick reactions, catching Liuyan Ling in midair, Liuyan Ling would have been smashed out of the underground palace. Your Majesty, Great Sage Emperor Zetian, it's not appropriate for you to bully a junior like this. Heaven's Equal Jiendi said with slight dissatisfaction after helping Liuyan Ling up. Who wants her to dress us? My dragon body is a gift from the heavens, there is no need to hide it. Wuzetian snorted coldly and Liuyan Ling's clothes exploded by themselves. Wuzetian returned to her naked state. However, unlike Heaven's Equal Jiendi and Ping Tianjiendi, Wuzetian did not seem to want to find clothes to wear. Instead, she wantonly displayed her perfect body in front of everyone, without any intention of hiding it. Your Majesty, 800 years have passed, and you still haven't changed at all. Odin smiled as he moved closer to Wuzetian. At the same time, he put his hand on Wuzetian's waist without any hesitation. Did I allow you to touch me? Wuzetian's expression changed drastically, and she glared at Odin fiercely, scaring him so much that he quickly retracted his hand. Did I allow you to let go again? Wuzetian's expression changed again. She then grabbed Odin's hand and placed it on her waist again. She touched Odin's white and tender face and smiled. Let's not be in a hurry. Tonight I will spend the night with you. Thank you, Your Majesty, Odin said with a look of surprise. This character. Seeing the scene in front of him, the Guhanbu was speechless. Odin was the godly king of the Norse god system, while Wu Zetian was the Empress of China. How could the two of them be so shameless? It was as if they were an adulterous couple obsessed with the pleasures of the flesh. How could Sister Mei Nyang be like this? She is not that kind of person, Liuyan Ling said in an even more dazed manner. Miss Ling, don't mind her. Wu Zetian is just like this. We are already used to it. Heaven's equal Jiendi patted Liuyan Ling's shoulder. Yes. In Wu Zetian's eyes, this world is different from ours. Ping Tian's Jiendi continued to explain. Wu Zetian is a woman who was once an empress. She has 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines. She also has a group of handsome male pets. With her status, she doesn't need to cover her body at all. For her, men are just playthings. She only needs to live in the state that she feels the most pleasurable. Even if this state is naked, she can copulate with any man she likes at any time. As for this Odin, I could not see through him 800 years ago, and I still can't see through him 800 years later. On the surface, he looks like an empress, but in reality, no one knows what he is thinking. Ping Tian's Jiendi said to Guhan. Ping Tian's grandson. Also, my heaven's equal grandson, long time no see. Did you miss great-grandmother? While they were talking about Wu Zetian took large strides and walked over to Guhan. Seeing Wu Zetian walk over, even though Ping Tian and Qi Tian were 2 Jiendis, they could not help but look afraid. Only Qi Tian's Jiendi forced himself to pull himself together and said, Great Sage Emperor Zetian, if you make such a joke, don't bother about us. What joke? Did I say something wrong? Wu Zetian laughed as she said, Not to mention the fact that I'm thousands of years older than you two. When you were first sent to my place, it was I who raised you two. You two are like my grandchildren. Don't you remember your granny's kindness? After saying that, Wu Zetian's hands reached into Heaven's equal sword emperor's and Heaven's equal sword emperor's clothes without any concealment. She groped around their chest. Do the two of you think you're so capable that you can disregard great-grandmother? Great Sage Emperor Zetian. Alright, great-grandmother. If you really think you're our great-grandmother, then please let us go for the sake of great-grandmother's status. There are outsiders here. Ping Tian looked like he was about to cry because of Wu Zetian's touch. What a joke. When you two were having sex with great-grandmother, why didn't you say that there were outsiders with great-grandmother? After saying that, Wu Zetian's hands moved from the 2 sword emperors' upper bodies to their lower bodies. She reached into their pants and rubbed something. Ping Tian and Qi Tian, the 2 sword emperors, had awkward and sour expressions on their faces. At the same time, there was a lot of shame and anger. It seemed like their relationship with Wu Zetian was very complicated. Enough. Great Sage Emperor Zetian. The Heaven's equal sword emperor had the fiercest temper. He slapped Wu Zetian's hand away and said with a cold expression, Please show some respect. Otherwise, don't blame me for ignoring the kindness of raising you all those years ago. That's right. Great Sage Emperor Zetian. Don't force and humiliate us too much. Ping Tian's Jiendi also pushed Wu Zetian's hand away. Sigh. The children have grown up. They don't listen to their grandmother anymore, sigh. Wu Zetian sighed. She did not force the 2 Jiendis anymore. Liuyan Ling had already run away with Lu Shihua in the face of this wonderful performance. Only Guhan stood there calmly. Brother military governor. These are all old things. I'm really ashamed. Ping Tian's Jiendi said to Guhan awkwardly. As for what the old things were, the 2 Jiendis kept their mouths shut. Actually, even if the 2 Jiendis didn't say anything, Guhan could guess a lot of things from their conversation. It seemed like after Yenjing City was destroyed, Drifting Goblet's Jiandi had sent some of the human geniuses and sword ladies to Wu Zetian. After all, only Wu Zetian had the ability to protect the remaining human forces. While the romantic Wu Zetian protected the remaining human forces, she also played a game of grooming and training them. The two sword emperors, Heaven's Equal and Heaven's Equal, were probably the two playthings that Wu Zetian had groomed when she was young. It was probably at that time that the titles of great-grandmother and great-grandson appeared. It was just that these two playthings had extraordinary talent and in the end, they actually became emperor sword wielders. At this time, the two sword emperors were no longer willing to talk about the humiliating period of time that they had spent as a man. I didn't notice that there's a handsome grandson here. Seeing that she couldn't take advantage of Ping Tian's and Jiandi's, Wu Zetian turned her attention to Gun. She looked at Gohan's body from head to toe and wanted to grope Gohan's chest, just like how she did to the two Jiandis. You want to F***ck me? Gohan grabbed Wu Zetian's hand that was about to reach his chest and reached out with his other hand without hesitation. He grabbed the beauty's small pair. Tsk. My grandson has guts, unlike these two who don't even have the guts to do anything. Wu Zetian smiled. Come on, touch me if you like. I like your hand. That's right. It's not fair for you to enjoy it alone. I want to enjoy it as well. After speaking, Wu Zetian reached out to grab Gohan's lower body. It's easy if you want to have sex with me. However, Your Majesty, you need to get someone's permission first. Gohan blocked Wu Zetian's hand for the second time and said with a smile. Who is it? Do I need her permission to like anyone? Wu Zetian said unhappily. She's my wife. Her name is I Ching. She's right there. Gohan pointed at the place that was covered by his sword energy whirlpool. What? Wu Zetian was shocked. She rushed into the sword energy whirlpool without hesitation. After a while, she walked out with a pale face. She didn't dare to look at Gohan anymore. She didn't want to offend that scary woman, I Ching. Chapter 13-19. Alright, now that all of you have been resurrected, let's sit down and discuss how to destroy Heaven Court and take revenge. Lu Ban walked to the middle of the 6 great sages and said. With the resurrection of the 6 great sages, the scene became very chaotic and terrible for a time. However, the old man Lu Ban was unexpectedly influential among the 6 great sages. When he finished speaking, the 6 great sages quieted down very respectfully. They each found a seat and sat down. It seemed that they were going to have a meeting. System: Hidden Dungeon Quest 6 completed. System: Hidden Dungeon Quest 7 generated. Please convince the 6 great sages to reach an agreement. As such a quest prompt rang in Gohan's ears, Gohan knew that it was almost impossible to count on the resurrected 6 great sages spontaneously working together to attack Heaven Court. Sure enough, although Lu Ban still had the ability to get the 6 great sages to sit down for a meeting, when they really started to discuss, a huge difference of opinion emerged. Almost half of the great sages did not intend to risk their lives to attack Heaven Court after being resurrected. The one who objected the most was Wu Zetian. She coldly smiled and said that she had attacked the Heavenly Court back then because her head had been smashed by a hammer. She now understood that attacking the Heavenly Court would only lead to death. She wanted to enjoy her life and would not foolishly fight the Heavenly Court to the death. Wu Zetian's expression changed. Odin agreed with this. Just now, he walked around the remaining Yuan Ko but did not find a Yuan Ko belonging to the Norse pantheon. Through questioning, he learned that the entire Norse pantheon Yuan Ko was basically dead. Even if there were 1 or 2 kittens and puppies left, no one knew where they were hiding. Odin was disheartened by this result. Since there was no more Yuan Ko in his pantheon, there was no need for him to fight for any living space for them. As long as he tried his best to hide, the people of Heaven Court would not be able to find them. Odin and Wu Zetian were the 2 most powerful among the 6 great sages present. When the two of them expressed their opposition in unison, they occupied almost half of the power of the 6 great sages. Moreover, the Audal King quickly said that the justice and life on this planet had completely withered. He wanted to return to Nebula M78. Seeing such a one-sided situation, the 2 sword emperors, Ping Tian and Qi Tian, could not help but fall into deep thought. In the beginning, they had supported launching another attack on the heavenly court. However, when they saw how fearful the great sages were, especially the extremely powerful Wu Zetian and Odin, who did not wish to continue fighting, the 2 sword emperors began to hesitate. Perhaps bringing the remnants of the human race to a small place to develop again was the right way to go. Among the 6 great sages, 5 of them had the idea of giving up. Only Orochi was clamoring to take revenge on the heavenly court. It was worthy of being a guy who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. However, this made things very troublesome. 5 of the 6 great sages did not want to take revenge. They only wanted to drag out an ignoble existence. Why would Gohan resurrect these great sages? Without the help of these great sages, how could they defeat the 5 desolate-level Yuan bandits of the heavenly court just by relying on the power of freezing? Gohan recalled the contents of the strategy guide. It was indeed written in the strategy guide that the 6 great sages were unwilling to fight back against the heavenly court after they were resurrected. Hence, the players needed the strategy guide for each great sage to help them fulfill their regrets in their previous lives and increase their favorability. When the favorability reached 100, these great sages who were unwilling to fight back against the heavenly court would change their minds because of the player's personal charm. This was a very common trick in game dungeons. Regardless of the era and the game, there were countless players who worked tirelessly to complete some affinity quests in order to improve their affinity with a certain NPC. This was also the quest link with the most number of quests among the 200 quests. There were more than 80 quests. Gohan estimated that if he really followed the strategy guide to improve the affinity of these 6 great sages, he would not be able to complete so many quests even if he was given another month. Gohan looked at the time. At this time, there were only 27 hours left in a week. Once 27 hours passed, the human souls in this dungeon would begin to dissipate due to excessive consumption. Although Gohan did not care about these human souls, Song Hama's soul was among them after all. Gohan could not watch his brother die just like that. Obviously, it was no longer possible to farm affinity according to the official orthodox strategy. Gohan had to find another way to force these great sages to participate in the crusade against Heaven Court in a short period of time. Anyway, this dungeon itself had already fallen into extreme chaos. Completely breaking away from the normal quest path of the system was the right way. The best way was to find a strong opponent to suppress these 6 great gods who were terrified. If Gohan had an Emperor Sword-level sword wielder, no, as long as he could have the level of an Immortal Sword-level sword wielder, then Gohan would have the confidence to suppress everyone. However, the problem was that Gohan was only a Spirit Sword-level sword wielder, so he needed the help of another person. It's just that I Ching has only grown by half. Gohan thought with some distress in his heart. I Ching's upper body had just grown, and it would take at least 5 or 6 hours for her whole body to be fully resurrected. By that time, these great sages would have already gone home. Thinking of this, Gohan got up silently, whispered a few words in Lu Ban's ear, and disappeared from everyone's sight. Since everyone's opinions are similar, then let's just disperse. When everyone's strength is stronger in the future, then we can think about revenge. Odin finally concluded. Of course, this was just a beautiful sentence. Among the 6 great sages present, except for Orochi who was too stupid, the other great sages were afraid of the heavenly court. As long as their lives were not in danger, they would not have the thought of seeking revenge on the heavenly court. This sentence was just to give himself a way out of this embarrassing situation. After all, it was a very shameful thing to flee in fear of the divine might of the heavenly court after his resurrection. Hearing Odin's words, the other great sages also nodded, got up one after another, opened the void, and prepared to flee for their lives. Ahem! Lu-ban could not help but cough and say, "Dear great sages, are you going to abandon us poor people like this? Great sages, are you going to abandon us?" Lu-ban was stunned. "Lord Lu-ban, what do you mean?" Odin asked in reply. "These juniors risked their lives and paid a heavy price to revive the six of you. Even if they didn't make any contributions, their hard work should be more than enough." Lu-ban said with grief and indignation. "Why did these juniors do this? Isn't it because they have had enough of Heaven Court's persecution and want to rely on the strength of all of you to win a free and safe future? The result of these juniors risking their lives is that you six lords are cowering here, running for your lives and only caring about yourselves? Then why did these juniors resurrect you? Lord Lu-ban, you can't say that." Hearing Lu-ban's words, apart from Orochi and Wu Zetian, the other four people could not help but feel a little embarrassed. "If we were strong enough, we would also want to take revenge on Heaven Court. But aren't we not strong enough? Besides, it's not that we don't want to take revenge. When the six of us are stronger, when we have a few more desolate level helpers, it won't be too late for us to take action. As the saying goes, plan before taking action. We can't be reckless." Odin explained with a serious face. "Good. You all make sense. You are all right." Lu-ban snorted coldly, "But there is something I forgot to tell you. The reason you were able to resurrect was because of the help of the 3 Khanate items. However, the amount of Tai water was not enough. The peach tree of immortality is not fully grown yet. At most, in 2 or 3 years your bodies will rapidly age and weaken. When that time comes, I'm afraid you won't even be able to open the Void Gate." "What?" The great sages were shocked. The Void Gate that was originally opened closed again. They quickly rushed to Lu-ban's side and asked sternly, "Lord Lu-ban, is what you said true? You can't lie to us." "Why would I lie to you?" Lu-ban sneered. "If you don't believe me, whether it's sword essence, immortal power, divine power, or telekinesis, you can all circulate your power. See if it's very dry when it flows through your meridians, as if it's flowing through sand. This is because the amount of Tai water is not enough, and your meridians are not fully developed yet. That's why it's like this." The 6 great sages did not say anything. They immediately closed their eyes and began to feel their bodies. As a result, their faces all turned purple. The truth was just as Lu-ban had said. Their meridians were indeed very dry. Under normal circumstances, they could not feel it, but when their power circulated quickly, it was very obvious. "Old man Lu-ban, is there any way to solve this problem?" These great sages had finally been resurrected. How could they be willing to change back? Especially Wu Zetian, who grabbed Lu-ban's collar and asked, "Don't worry. There is still a way." Lu-ban smiled and pushed Wu Zetian's hand away, saying, "Since there isn't enough Tai water, we'll just have to replenish it." Lu-ban took out a bottle of Tai water from his body. "While your 9 Yang true fire is not extinguished, pour this bottle of Tai water on your bodies, and then train in the fire for a few hours. Let your bodies grow a little, and there will be no problem." Chapter 1320. All right. Wu Zetian did not say anything else. She grabbed a bottle of Tai water and prepared to return to her grave mound to smelt it again. "Wait, there's something strange here." Odin sensed that something was wrong and pressed his hand on Wu Zetian's shoulder. "Nothing strange? Don't make a fuss," Otto King said disdainfully. "Humph. Don't you think that Lord Lu-ban's bottle of Tai water is too simple and easy to give?" Odin squinted his eyes and said. His words instantly enlightened the other 6 great sages. Lu-ban's Tai water was indeed too easily given. There was no hesitation or exchange at all. He just handed it right in front of them. If it had been an hour ago, this would not have been strange. After all, Lu Ban had gone through a lot of trouble to resurrect the 6 of them. There was full trust and affection between the two sides. But now it was different. The 6 of them did not want to be enemies with the heavenly court, so Lu Ban was obviously unhappy. Under such circumstances, if the other party handed over the Tai water so easily, he would be too stupid. Odin frowned at Lu Ban and added, "Old Master Lu Ban, isn't this a little too strange? If what you said is true, then why didn't you give us enough Tai water from the beginning? Why did you torture us like this?" I have some understanding of the 6 of you, and I can guess what you will do after your resurrection. So, because of your fear of the heavenly court, you don't want to help these poor juniors. I can guess that too. Lu Ban's words made the 6 great sages blush. They did not expect Lu Ban to see through them. If that's the case, why did Master Lu Ban resurrect the 6 of us? Odin asked again. Because if we want to obtain true freedom, we cannot do without the 6 of you, Lu Ban said calmly. So, I only added half of the Tai water to you. How about it? You won't blame me, right? That's right. This bottle of Tai water is only enough for one of you. If the 6 of you want to share it, it's not enough. The expressions of the 6 great sages were a little strange. They had already cursed Lu Ban in their hearts, but they couldn't do it. Who asked Lu Ban to resurrect them? With this kindness, they were too embarrassed to scold Lu Ban. I know you're all cursing me in your hearts, but I don't care. I just want to make a deal with you. As long as you agree to my deal, I'll give you the rest of the supreme life water. Lu Ban said. Lord Lu Ban, please speak. Odin heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Lu Ban's words. Using the Tai water in exchange for their compromise was a normal situation. It seemed that this matter was most likely true. Lu Ban was indeed a cunning old fox. But old man Lu Ban, let's make this clear first. If you want us to run to the heavenly court and die, then there's no need for this deal. Wu Zetian snorted coldly. Don't worry, I know you're all cowards. I don't expect you to have much courage. Lu Ban sneered. I only have one thing to ask of you. I hope you can take the juniors in this underground palace with you when you escape. Give them temporary safety. Now that the heavenly court knows that your souls have all been freed from the place of suppression, I'm afraid that the Jade Emperor has also guessed the fact that you have been resurrected. He may not attack you, but he will definitely take cruel revenge on us juniors. This place is no longer safe, and I'm afraid our other strongholds are no longer safe either. Therefore, I hope that you can take away a portion of these juniors and protect them. I'll be satisfied if they are safe. Lu Ban's face was full of sorrow when he said that. I agree. I have no objections. I agree too. Heavens equal Giendi and Heavens equal Giendi said at the same time. They were the most grateful among the 6 great sages. So, after hearing Lu Ban's request, they immediately agreed without hesitation. I agree too. Odin agreed immediately. At the same time, the idea of rebuilding the Norse god system was gradually born in Odin's mind. He could choose some of these Yuan Ko guys with great potential and bring them back. Then, he could train them, brainwash them, and mate with them. Maybe he could recreate the Norse god system. Yes. Wu Zetian nodded. I also lack some eunuchs and maids to serve me. Although these guys are filthy, I can barely use them. With the approval of these 4, even if Ultron King and Orochi were a little reluctant, they could not go against Lu Ban's wishes. Anyway, they were not going to risk their lives to protect them. If necessary, they could just leave them behind and escape. The most important thing now was to get the water of Tai from Lu Ban. Seeing that the 6 great sages agreed, Lu Ban showed a satisfied smile and took out 6 bottles of water of Tai. This time, Odin and the others did not doubt him again. They each took a bottle of water of Tai and rushed into the 9-yang real fire that had not yet extinguished. They began to refine their bodies. Master Lu Ban, how long do we need to refine our bodies? Odin suddenly asked. You can only come down when I tell you to, Lu Ban said lightly. The 6 great sages quieted down again. How could these bastards do this? We respected them so much and tried our best to help them resurrect. In the end, they ended up like this. Seeing that the 6 great sages had begun to refine their bodies, Artoria, who was full of resentment, walked to Lu Ban's side and said unwillingly. What had just happened was a big blow to Artoria. She never thought that these ancestors, who had been rumored for 800 years, would end up with such a hateful face. Calm down, Artoria. All creatures are born with this face. There's nothing strange about it, Lu Ban said calmly. But I can't accept it. Even if I saved a dog, it's still better than saving these 6 bastards. Artoria said bitterly. Master Lu Ban, with all due respect, you shouldn't have given them the remaining precious water of Tai. You let them escape and end up as useless trash. We don't need their protection, we can protect ourselves. Silly child. Lu Ban stroked Artoria's ahogue and smiled. You were the one who brought the Tai water here, and you saw it being used with your own eyes. Didn't you notice that something was wrong with it? This. Artoria froze for a moment and began to recall all the details. Her expression instantly froze, and she said hesitantly, Master, why do I feel that all the water of Tai I got has been used up? There's no extra. Of course there's no extra. Lu Ban laughed and whispered, In order to resurrect the 6 of them, I have already used up all the water of Tai. How can there be a second water of Tai? Then the 6 bottles just now. Those 6 bottles are just plain water. They're not water of Tai. Fortunately, the water of Tai looks exactly the same as plain water, so they won't notice anything wrong. Lu Ban did not dare to laugh. He could only laugh softly, his eyes narrowing into a straight line. Then, Master, you must have lied to them. Of course, their bodies are made of peach wood, and peach wood is essentially just a piece of wood. When the meridians are made of wood, it's only natural for them to feel a little jerky. These guys are great sages, but in the end, they're just fools. They're being played around by me. Lu Ban laughed even more happily. Master, you're so bad. Artoria was also amused by Lu Ban. But after laughing, her face became worried again. My lord, you've fooled them by doing this, but it's of no practical use. When they come down from the burial mound and find that the meridian has not changed, they will not let you go. It's okay. What I'm doing is just buying time for someone. Lu Ban sighed and looked at the place where Gohan's sword energy was circling. I won't lie to you. The idea just now was not thought of by me, but by the military governor. The military governor told me that as long as I can find a way to delay him for 5 or 6 hours, when the 7th great sage is resurrected, he will have a way to change the whole situation. Master, how can you trust someone like him? He and the 7th great sage are clearly a couple, Artoria immediately said with dissatisfaction. I don't care what the relationship between the 2 of them is. I believe him, and that's enough. Lu Ban said domineeringly. Why do I feel that something is wrong? After an unknown amount of time, Odin, who had been immersed in the 9-yang true fire all this time, was the first to discover that something was wrong. Apart from being half dead from the heat, his meridians didn't feel any changes. They were still as jerky as before. Master Lu Ban, why are my meridians? There's nothing strange about it. Only at the moment when the water of supreme life is completely integrated into your body will the feeling of your meridians return to normal. You just have to wait patiently, Lu Ban said faintly. It did not sound strange at all. Odin reluctantly believed Lu Ban's words. But as time went by, the other great sages gradually felt that something was wrong, especially Orochi. This cold-blooded animal was most afraid of fire. After staying in the 9-yang true fire for a long time, He had almost been burned to a piece of snakeskin. "You're lying to us. This bottle is only filled with water." Orochi could not help but jump out of the fire. He grabbed the bottle he had just discarded and swallowed it whole. Only then did he realize that the bottle was just a bottle of water. Hearing Orochi's words, all the great sages jumped out angrily and looked at Lu Ban angrily. Artoria was so scared that she hurriedly stood in front of Lu Ban. The whole situation was on the verge of exploding. Chapter 13:21. Master Lu Ban, we respect you and thank you for saving us. But why did you lie to us? Odin stood up and asked with a smile. However, there was a chill in his smile. Lu Ban and Artoria could not help but feel a little afraid. I didn't lie to you. Lu Ban spread his hands and said with a wry smile, Someone asked me to lie to you. Who? Who dares to do this? I will swallow his head alive. Orochi roared angrily. It's me. Orochi did not expect a voice to reply to him from behind. Everyone immediately looked in the direction of the voice and saw Gohan leisurely walking out of the Sword Chi whirlpool. He looked at the 6 great sages coldly. Brother Military Governor, you can't just say things like that. Pingtian Jiendi and Chitian Jiendi immediately said nervously when they saw Gohan appear. They were a little angry at the person who lied to them. However, when they saw Gohan taking the initiative to admit it, they became very nervous. Gohan was one of the most promising descendants of the human race. They absolutely did not want to see anything happen to Gohan. Now that Gohan took the initiative to admit that he lied to everyone, it was equivalent to taking all the blame on himself. He would instantly become the target of public criticism. Once the other 4 great sages wanted to kill Gohan, Pingtian and Chitian would have no choice but to escape with Gohan. I didn't say anything. I did ask Senior Lu Ban to do this, Gohan said with a smile. Pingtian and Chitian could only shake their heads with a wry smile. They had no idea what this little brother of theirs was trying to do. Very well. Since you have admitted it, then pay the price. Orochi had long been unhappy with Gohan because of his previous obstruction. At that time, if Pingtian Jiendi and Chitian Jiendi had not come out, Orochi would have probably killed Gohan. Now that Gohan had jumped out and angered everyone, Orochi would not let go of such a good opportunity. Countless tentacles stretched out, ready to crush Gohan alive. Orochi, don't. Pingtian Jiendi and Chitian Jiendi jumped out again to stop Orochi. Chitian, Pingtian, don't go too far. This person dared to trick us. Is it wrong for me to kill him? Orochi turned his eyes to Odin and the other great sages, hoping to get their support. Wait. Odin motioned for Orochi to calm down and turned to Gohan. I'm curious. Why did you ask Senior Lu Ban to do this? What's in it for you? I don't have any other thoughts. I just hope that you can stay behind and follow me to attack the Heavenly Court, Gohan said straightforwardly. The idea is good, but the action is wrong, Odin smiled and said. Odin laughed. If you wish for us to sweep through the Heavenly Court, then you should kneel before us and work hard to please us. Perhaps if our hearts soften, we will accompany you to sweep through the Heavenly Court. Do you think we will help a liar if you don't lie to us like you are doing now? Does Lord Odin think this is a clumsy lie? Gohan laughed coldly. If this is a clumsy lie, then why did the 6 of you obediently run to the bonfire to warm yourselves? You! All the great sages were embarrassed when they heard Gohan's words. Then, they became angry. This Gohan had actually slapped them in the face. Even Pingtian and Chitian were angry at Gohan. They felt that this junior was too insensible and lacked EQ. How could they entrust the future of humanity to this person's hands? Gohan's face was filled with rage. Even Pingtian and Chitian were furious at him. They felt that this junior was too insensible and lacked EQ. How could they entrust the future of humanity to this person? By the way, you also said that I am a liar. Gohan looked like he had seen a very funny joke. Who is the liar? who deceived these poor descendants to do everything possible to resurrect himself. But when it was time to fulfill his promise, he ran away like a pig. This is the biggest liar, deceiving these pitiful people for a full 800 years. You! Orochi's face was stubborn and red. He was embarrassed and annoyed. He could no longer calm down after being poked by Gohan. Countless tentacles grabbed at Gohan like lightning. Disgusting thing! Gohan snorted coldly. He turned the Zhu sword in his hand and mobilized the rule power at the same time. These tentacles fell to the ground like loaches in front of Gohan. In the blink of an eye, all of them were cut off by Gohan. Ah! Orochi let out a cry of pain. These tentacles being cut off was actually not a very serious injury for Orochi. At most, it was to the extent of breaking the skin. However, the sharp pain of the tentacles being cut off made Orochi feel extreme pain. I must kill you! Orochi's flower slash. Orochi's tentacles began to recover quickly. The tentacles that were cut off grew again. Then, these tentacles merged with each other and soon evolved into hundreds of 40-meter-long broadsword. He can actually force Orochi to use his true strength. Seeing Orochi use Orochi's flower slash, Odin could not help but say in surprise. Orochi generally would not use this move unless it was in a battle of the same level. The reason was very simple. If it had to use such a move against an opponent of a lower level, then it would be too embarrassing for Orochi. But now, Orochi disregarded the fact that the opponent was a spirit sword level swordbearer and directly used Orochi's flower slash. Could it be that the strength of this human had reached the point where Orochi had to use its true strength, which was Yuan Ko, who was also at the great desolate level like them? Why bother? It's a waste of time. Seeing Orochi directly use Orochi's flower slash, there was no fear on Gohan's face. Instead, he said with an eager expression, "You guys might as well come at me together. I will send you back the way I resurrected you." Brother Military Governor, shut up. Don't talk like that. Apologize to everyone. Ping Tian and Chi Tian were anxious. This Gohan was provoking them. Even they wanted to beat up Gohan, let alone others. Therefore, Ping Tian and Chi Tian could only try their best to persuade Gohan to admit defeat. Thank you, seniors. Don't worry. I will send these four back. You two can continue to live in this world. Gohan said. Ping Tian and Chi Tian almost vomited blood. They really did not want to help such a person. Good. Very good. Ultra King was so angry that the light bulbs in his eyes were about to explode. He stood next to Orochi and said, "Orochi, leave this guy to me. I will send him on his way with King's light wave." Odin, who was gloomy and cunning, was also very angry at Gohan. He was about to teach Gohan a lesson. He was shocked to find that Wu Zetian, who was the most overbearing and violent woman, did not show any signs of anger. Instead, she took a few steps back and stood with Chi Tian and Ping Tian. She did not seem to have any intention of attacking Gohan. There must be something wrong here. Odin reacted instinctively. The anger in his mind instantly disappeared. He followed Wu Zetian and took a few steps back. Since Wu Zetian did not attack, there was no need for him to attack. As a result, Heavens Equal and Heavens Equal and Heavens Equal and Heavens Equal realized that Odin and Wu Zetian had chosen to stand with them. This puzzled the two sword emperors. What are you two doing? Ultra King also noticed that something was wrong. On the other side, Orochi could not hold back anymore. Hundreds of tentacles that were more than 40 meters long slashed at Gohan from all directions. They were as fast as lightning. On the other side, Gohan did not move. It was as if he did not care about Orochi's attack at all. You are asking for it. Orochi became even more frenzied. Orochi, how dare you bully my husband? How dare you? Suddenly, a clear and angry voice echoed through the underground palace. She's here. She really did attack. Hearing this voice, Wu Zetian's expression froze. Then, a look of relief appeared on her face. It was as if she was glad that she did not choose to attack. This Wu Mainyang, why is she? Odin saw Wu Zetian's reaction and suddenly felt that things were very strange. At the same time, he felt as if he had heard this voice somewhere before. It was so familiar that he felt fear from the depths of his soul. Could it be her? Just as the figure of a woman appeared in Odin's mind, countless sword lights filled the entire underground palace. When the sword lights faded, Orochi, who had been standing in place, had disappeared. All that was left were countless pieces of flesh on the ground. 8 heads with terrified expressions kept moving on the ground. The pieces of flesh around them were trying to get closer to Orochi's heads. Only by completely destroying all of Yamada no Orochi's heads would it be able to resurrect with its own power sooner or later. Such an injury would not be able to completely harm Yamada no Orochi's foundation. But as soon as the opponent's sword chi appeared, Yamada no Orochi's body was completely torn apart. If this kind of strength was used against a universal-level bandit, that universal-level bandit would probably not survive for more than 5 seconds. It should be known that even if Odin wanted to kill his brother Loki, who was a universe rank Yuan Ko, it was difficult. He had let Loki escape time and time again. If the owner of the sword energy had attacked, Loki would not have been able to escape. Orochi, do you want to die again? A foot wearing sneakers stepped on Orochi's head. I don't dare. Your Majesty shrouding heaven. I really don't dare. Orochi's head said miserably. He was a desolation rank Yuan Ko, but he ended up like this. It was really sad. Chapter 1322. Long time no see, everyone. I Ching raised his head and scanned everyone with his eagle-like eyes. The great sages who met I Ching's gaze could not help but lower their heads. They did not dare to look directly at I Ching. It was as if they were mice that had seen a cat. Zetian, there are 6 of us here today, but you are alone. We can kill you if we join forces. Ultron King said loudly, but there was a sense of guilt in his voice. What a joke! I Ching sneered disdainfully. You are so afraid of the current heavenly court that you want to escape. Do you still dare to be presumptuous in front of me? I Ching's words made the others shut their mouth. They could not help but recall the battle 800 years ago. They suddenly became terrified. This did not seem right. According to Lu Ban, in the battle 800 years ago, I Ching cooperated with the 2 desolation-level Yuan Ko to barely resist the attack of the 6 great sages. Later, when the heavenly court's reinforcements returned, it led to the final defeat. Could it be that the battle 800 years ago was not like what Lu Ban said? There was more to it than meets the eye. If the 6 of you want to fight, I will accompany you anytime. I Ching kicked the head of Orochi away. Orochi's head rolled like a ball and finally fell in a corner. The limbs on the ground moved quickly and crawled towards the head. I Ching was not sure what was going on. All right. You can start now. Let me see if you still have the blood of 800 years ago. I Ching said coldly. The entire underground palace was silent. None of the 6 great sages dared to speak. I Ching's words alone had completely suppressed 6 opponents of the same level. The fear in the hearts of these great sages could be imagined. Is this really the little woman in the igloo the other day? Artoria was speechless. She could not associate the domineering woman in front of her with the woman who was as gentle as a willow in March when she faced Gohan in the igloo. Perhaps this is the woman who is worthy of the military governor. Artoria thought to herself. Ching-er, don't be like this. I think we can still sit down and talk. Finally, a voice broke the deadlock on the surface. Gohan slowly walked to I Ching's side and said to I Ching. That's right. We can sit down and talk. Odin was the first to respond, and was the first to follow up on Gohan's words. That's right. I heard that you, Zetian, were tricked by the Heavenly Court's people. We're all enemies of the Heavenly Court, so why do we have to be enemies? Can't we just sit down and talk? Wu Zetian said. Yes. That's right. Let's talk it out. Let's talk about it. On the other side, Orochi's body finally came back. It walked back carefully, raised its tentacles and said, "We are all partners of justice. Everyone was a hero. They are all heroes. Out of the 6 great sages, 4 of them had made their stand. Only Pingtian Jiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi had a strange expression on their faces. They did not seem willing to talk to I Ching. Logically speaking, I Ching was the same as these 2 Jiendi. They were all pure-blooded humans, so there should not be such a conflict between them. But looking at Pingtian Jiendi and Heaven's equal Jiendi, it seemed like they had a deeper grudge against I Ching. That's good. Since everyone is willing to talk, then let's sit down and talk. I Ching nodded. The other great sages felt as if they had been pardoned, and finally sat down together, then fell into silence again. I Ching did not speak, and the other great sages did not even have the courage to speak. "I want to take revenge on the heavenly court," I Ching said calmly. "Back then, after I killed you, the heavenly court took advantage of the fact that I had used up most of my power to gang up on me. I was attacked from all sides, and in the end, I had no choice but to explode my own soul and hide under Kunlun Mountain, just like all of you, until my husband resurrected me today. I have to take my revenge. Are you all willing to come with me?" Everyone hesitated. After a long time, Odin said, "If what you say is true, Your Majesty Jetian, we are naturally willing to attack the heavenly court with Your Majesty Jetian, but you know what happened back then. You have already betrayed us once. How can we trust you a second time?" "That's where you're wrong." I Ching laughed coldly. "I did not betray you back then. I have always been a member of the heavenly court. I was only willing to work with you because the heavenly court gave me a mission. It's funny that I trusted the heavenly court so much. I really thought that they would be able to create a harmonious human world. I did not expect to end up like this. I will definitely return this debt to the heavenly court." "Humph. Betrayal is betrayal. Don't make it sound so nice. It's just that you were betrayed." Heaven's equal Jiendi stood up and shouted. Heaven's equal Jiendi was startled. He immediately pressed his brother down and whispered, "Are you crazy? You argued with her. She's going to kill you." Ai. Hearing Heaven's equal Sword Emperor's words, I Ching sighed and finally stood up. He bowed to the 6 great sages and said in a sincere voice, "I'm sorry for what happened in the past. I apologize to everyone. Please forgive my stupidity." Heavens! Jetian Jiendi actually apologized to me. Everyone looked at each other. In their memories, Jetian Jiendi was a very arrogant woman. They had never seen her apologize to anyone before. But now, she was bowing to them. Just this apology alone was enough to dispel most of the suspicions and hostility in the 6 great sages' hearts. If not for the fact that Jetian Jiendi knew that she was wrong, she would never have apologized. "Lord Lu Ban, what's going on? Why is it that what I heard is completely different from what I know?" Artoria was confused. She could not understand why the 6 great sages would say that I Ching had betrayed them. But looking at I Ching's sincere apology, it seemed to be the truth. "I knew it wasn't as simple as it seemed." Lu Ban spread his hands and revealed a strange expression. "Don't ask me." Because they were afraid that the secret would be leaked, the 6 great sages planned it alone. We were only responsible for cooperating with them. "Let me tell you what happened back then." Guhan walked up to Artoria. While I Ching was chatting with the others, he said to Artoria and Lu Ban, "Actually, it wasn't 6 great sages who planned the rebellion. It was 7 great sages." Guhan said faintly. This was the story he had heard from I Ching. It turned out that I Ching's existence was not a secret. At that time, the 6 great sages already knew that there was a human emperor sword wielder in the celestial court. As for the reason, I Ching had come to them herself. At that time, I Ching had taken the initiative to find Heaven's equal Jiendi. After revealing her identity as an Emperor sword wielder, although Heaven's equal Jiandi had some doubts, he had taken the initiative to accept I Ching and chatted with her. I Ching told Heaven's equal Jiandi that she was a sword celestial who had been trained by the celestial court since she was young. She had never known the truth about humans. She only knew that she had met a human sword wielder. Just as she was about to kill this demon, the sword wielder had used his identity to tell I Ching the truth. At that point, I Ching had developed a deep suspicion about humans and herself. She had looked up a lot of information and ruins and finally discovered a shocking truth. Humans were actually a race that had been enslaved by the celestial court. She was not a sword celestial, but a human sword wielder. She had been brainwashed by the celestial court. With this discovery, I Ching had found Heaven's equal Jiandi. She had clearly expressed her hope that the two of them would work together to eliminate the hypocritical celestial court in one fell swoop. As I Ching had already told the truth about humans, Heaven's equal Jiandi had instinctively believed her. It was like a wolf child who had been raised by wolves. Suddenly, she had taken the initiative to tell you that she had discovered that she was actually a human and wanted to return to the human world. You would definitely not doubt her words. After all, it was natural for her to return to the human race. Therefore, Heaven's equal Jiandi had called Heaven's equal Jiandi to Mount Huagua. After the three of them had a discussion, they began to contact the other great sages. In the end, humans and the remaining 6 great sages of Yuan Ko had all united together and began the plan to destroy the celestial court. During this period, I Ching had taken the initiative to show her strength to the 6 great sages. The 6 great sages were very encouraged. They felt that with the 7 of them, it would be very easy to destroy the celestial court. They all agreed to this plan. In the end, I Ching told everyone that she would continue to lurk in the celestial court and pretend that she had not discovered her identity. She hoped that the 6 great sages would not reveal her secret. The 6 great sages executed this very well. None of them revealed the existence of I Ching. Therefore, later generations did not know that I Ching was actually the 7th great sage. On the day of the agreed general attack, the 6 great sages easily broke into the celestial court with I Ching's support and started a battle with the 2 celestial emperors of the celestial court who stayed there. The 2 celestial emperors were no match for the 7 great sages at all. In the blink of an eye, they were about to kill each other. When everyone felt that victory was in sight, I Ching suddenly stabbed her compatriot, Heaven's equal Jiandi. Heaven's equal Jiandi, who was caught off guard, was severely injured on the spot. At this time, I Ching's true face was revealed. It turned out that she was a double-sided spy. She was the bait deliberately thrown out by the celestial court to lure the 6 great sages to send themselves to their death. But when everything was revealed, the void of the entire celestial court had been completely sealed. The 6 great sages could no longer escape from the celestial court. Chapter 13:23. Next, I Ching cooperated with the celestial court's desolate grade Yuan Ko to counterattack the 6 great sages. However, the 2 celestial emperors of the celestial court had been seriously injured in the previous battle. In the end, they could only serve as a distraction. I Ching was fighting 6 great sages on her own. It was only at this moment that these great sages saw how terrifying I Ching's strength was. She could suppress 6 great sages on her own. These were 6 Yuan Ko of the same level. Not only could I Ching suppress them, but she could also gain the upper hand. Such a performance had surpassed the traditional Emperor's sword-level sword-bearers. The 6 great sages even suspected that I Ching's strength might have broken through Emperor's sword-level sword-bearers and reached the legendary level. It was also during this battle that the fear of I Ching was deeply imprinted in the hearts of these 6 great sages. They were imprinted with the impression that I Ching could not be defeated. Later, with the return of the other 3 celestial emperors, there was no more suspense in the battle. In the end, the 6 great sages used self-destruction to break through the celestial court's seal on the void. Their souls collapsed and were suppressed in various places. So there was such a story back then. After listening to Gohan's narration, Artoria's expression was one of surprise. She did not expect there to be such a hidden history 800 years ago. She did not expect I Ching's strength to be so terrifying. She could fight 6 great sages on her own. She was simply a god among gods and demons. Your Majesty Shu Tian, since you have apologized to us, we are willing to trust you a little more. We want to ask you, what happened to you after we self-destructed? Odin asked. Me? I Ching laughed self-deprecatingly. After the battle with you, my sword essence was almost exhausted. Then, the 5 people of the Celestial Court launched a sneak attack on me from behind. They defeated me, who had lost my sword essence. In the end, I ended up self-destructing like all of you. So that's what happened. In fact, I've already reminded you during the battle. Odin nodded with a sorrowful and puzzled look on his face. I told you back then that you can't trust the people of the Heavenly Court. After you help them defeat us, they'll immediately attack you. But I just don't understand why you didn't believe me back then and insisted on working for the Heavenly Court. Because I have no conflict of interest with the Heavenly Court. I Ching hesitated for a moment before replying. How is this possible? You are a human and the Heavenly Court is Yuan Ko. The conflict between the two of you is innate and irreconcilable. Moreover, without the main conflict between us and the Heavenly Court, the conflict of interest between you and the Heavenly Court is inevitable. It is impossible that it does not exist, Odin said firmly. What if I join the Heavenly Court after killing all of you and become the Heavenly Court's 6th Heavenly Emperor, Central Earth Great Emperor? I Ching said calmly. What? The 6 great sages' expressions changed drastically. They never imagined that the Heavenly Court would give I Ching such a condition. The Heavenly Court had 5 desolate-level Yuan Ko Great Emperors, which meant that the Heavenly Court had 5 Heavenly Emperors. One of them was the Central Jade Emperor named Hao Tian. This was the same title as Yen Jing City's previous Jiendi. The second was the Western Heavenly Emperor of Supreme Polarity, named North Star. The third was the Northern North Pole Middle Sky Emperor of Polarity, named Boikao. The fourth was the Southern South Pole Longevity Emperor, named South Pole Immortal One, a disciple of Old Lord Taishang. The fifth was the Eastern East Pole Viridescent Light Emperor, named Xiaohao. He was Hao Tian's younger brother. These 5 heavenly emperors occupied the east, west, north, south, and center directions. This meant that they ruled over the entire primitive universe. This was a rule that had been passed down since ancient times. The Heavenly Court only had these 5 heavenly emperors. There had never been a time when there were 6 heavenly emperors. This Jade Emperor had actually broken the rules and forcibly created the 6th Central Earth Great Emperor. In terms of title, he was actually on par with the Central Jade Emperor. His position was even higher than the other 4 heavenly emperors. This was equivalent to giving I Ching a position that was second only to the Heavenly Court. It was no wonder that the 6 great sages' expressions changed drastically. They even looked a little jealous. If the Heavenly Court had been willing to give the 6 of them the same conditions, they would probably have rushed over and sat in their positions with peace of mind. They wouldn't have cared about the lives of others. No. Even if the Heavenly Court gave you such a position, you should also know that you are a human being. The positions given by the Heavenly Court are all empty. You can be promoted by them, but you can also be beaten down by them. You won't be so stupid. After the initial envy, jealousy, and hatred, Odin quickly reacted. The position of the 6th Heavenly Emperor was just a lollipop used to deceive children. It was impossible for I Ching not to see the trick in it. I am indeed different from those Heavenly Emperors of the Heavenly Court. The people of the Heavenly Court are unlikely to believe me. But if I send my true spirit to the deification list, the heavenly emperors of the heavenly court will be 100% at ease with me. I Ching replied, "What? You actually want to send your true spirit to the deification list? Are you crazy? You give up your freedom and want to be a slave to the Jade Emperor?" Odin said in disbelief. The other 5 great sages were also surprised. Obviously, they didn't understand why I Ching would do this. Other than agreeing to this condition? Is there any other way for me to make the heavenly court trust me? I Ching said with a wry smile. Everyone was speechless. Indeed, this was the only way to make the heavenly court trust I Ching. Other than that, the heavenly court would never trust I Ching. The deification list was an important tool for the whole heavenly court to be united and not betray. All the immortals of the heavenly court sent a trace of their true spirit to the deification list, which was under the control of the Jade Emperor. As long as the deification list was in his hands, the Jade Emperor could destroy the true spirit in the deification list at any time. Once the true spirit was destroyed, no matter how strong those immortals were, they would be turned into ashes in an instant. There was no chance of them surviving. Therefore, the immortals of the heavenly court were extremely loyal to the Jade Emperor. It couldn't be helped. After all, their lives were in the hands of the Jade Emperor. The fact that I Ching was willing to send his true spirit to the investiture of the gods meant that he had completely placed his life in the hands of the Jade Emperor. He had truly become a member of the heavenly court. The Jade Emperor would no longer have to worry about I Ching's loyalty. The distrust between them would also disappear. It was no wonder that I Ching would completely trust the heavenly court and not be on guard against them. I Ching had already chosen to be a slave of the heavenly court, even if the slave was a central celestial emperor. But if that's the case, why did the heavenly court want to kill you? This doesn't make sense. Since you were willing to join the deification list, the heavenly court had no reason to kill you. Don't they want a sharp sword like you that won't cut themselves? Odin asked in disbelief. First of all, I didn't send my true spirit into the deification list at that time. Once I did, I definitely couldn't hide it from your eyes. You definitely wouldn't believe me. So when I defeated you, I wasn't a member of the heavenly court yet. Secondly, it's probably because the strength I've displayed scared them. I Ching smiled bitterly. After I was ambushed by the Jade Emperor, I asked them the same question. Why weren't they willing to believe me? I was clearly willing to send my true spirit into the deification list. In the end, Hao Tian told me that I was too strong, so strong that I had already reached the critical point of controlling the deification list. If I were given a few hundred more years to cultivate, the deification list wouldn't be able to trap my true spirit. In order to be safe, they could only kill me when I was exhausted. What? The deification list couldn't trap you? Oh my God! Is your strength already that terrifying? Legend has it that the deification list has twice the sealing power of its controller. In other words, unless one's strength exceeds the Jade Emperor's by twice, they won't be able to escape the deification list's control. Odin murmured to himself in a daze. I Ching's words once again shocked all the Yuanko present to the point that they couldn't close their mouth. But thinking about it carefully, this was a matter of course. The Jade Emperor himself was a desolate grade origin bandit who could fight against 3 great sages alone. If he wanted to break free from the investiture of the gods' control, he would need to have twice the strength of the Jade Emperor. In other words, I Ching had already reached the level where he could fight against 6 great sages alone. This had already been proven by I Ching's battle with the 6 great sages. No wonder the Jade Emperor was so afraid of I Ching. He didn't even trust the deification list and directly ordered I Ching to be killed. I didn't expect that the reason you died in the end was because you were too strong, Wu Zetian whispered. At the same time, she felt a burst of shame in her heart. He would die because he was too weak. But I Ching died because she was too strong. What the hell was this? Wu Zetian's words also caused the other 6 great sages to feel the same way. Yes, they lowered their heads in shame. No. I didn't die because I was too strong. I Ching shook his head and said, on the contrary, I'm still too weak. If I could defeat all 11 of you by myself, I would be able to live. So, the reason why I died is because I'm too weak. Well, after I Ching said this, the great sages present were even more ashamed. They couldn't even lift their heads. However, Heaven's equal Jiandi suddenly raised his head and looked at I Ching with anger and confusion. He asked, why? Why did you have to be the celestial emperor of the heavenly court? Why did you betray your own race? Chapter 13:24. One could imagine how much pain the Heaven's equal sword emperor felt when he asked this question. He was the one who led I Ching to join the alliance of the 6 great sages. He was the one who watched I Ching stab the blade of betrayal into his own heart. He was the one who watched I Ching force everyone into a desperate situation. He had been suffering from I Ching's betrayal for the past 800 years. That was why Jiandi asked this question. He wanted to know why I Ching had betrayed her own people. I did not betray my people. My heart has always been with the humans, from the beginning to the end. I Ching was very calm in the face of Jiandi's question. It was as if he was eating and drinking. You liar! You wanted to join the heavenly court and become the 6th heavenly emperor. You even wanted to join the gods list and become the heavenly court's dog. You betrayed the 6 of us and the entire human race. You're just a greedy and vain woman. What right do you have to say that your heart is with us humans? I Tian practically shouted out these words from her own throat. I have no reason to lie to you. My heart will always be with the humans. I am doing this for them. I Ching let out a long sigh. His tone softened slightly as he asked the Heaven's equal sword emperor, Your Majesty, let me ask you. If we had really defeated the heavenly court 800 years ago and killed all the heavenly emperors in the heavenly court, what would we humans have gained? Freedom, of course. We would be free from the heavenly court's control and brainwashing. We would regain our own freedom. Heaven's equal Jiandi answered without hesitation. But if we had defeated the heavenly court, would we really have freedom? I Ching asked. I Ching's question made Jiandi choke. He waited for a while before replying, We could rebuild Beijing City. With Beijing City we would be free. Even if we defeated the heavenly court and rebuilt Beijing City, so what? I Ching continued to interrogate. We've just returned to the past. All humans continue to hide in Yanjing City, watching the Yuan Ko wreaking havoc outside in fear. Our sword-bearers will return to the past and fight the Yuan Ko endlessly for 1,000 years. As I Ching spoke, he pointed to the other 6 non-human great sages. The moment we defeat the heavenly court, these 4 people will be like the 5 celestial emperors in the past. They will turn their spears in an instant and aim their sharp blades at us, killing us completely, just like what the heavenly court did to me in the past. No, how could we do that? After listening to I Ching's words, the other 4 great sages quickly waved their hands and denied it. However, from the awkward expressions on their faces, it seemed that they really did have such thoughts in their hearts. After all, the humans and Yuan Ko had only joined forces because of the situation, and because of the existence of a colossal being like the heavenly court. If the heavenly court fell, the humans and Yuan Ko would immediately return to being mortal enemies. There would be no friendship to speak of. No problem. Even if the 4 of them dare to make a move, with the 3 of us joining forces, who knows who will be eliminated? Heaven's equal Jiandi said unwillingly. Indeed, I Ching alone could deal with 6 great sages. If Heaven's equal Jiandi and Heaven's equal Jiandi were by I Ching's side, the remaining 4 great sages would definitely not be I Ching's match. These cunning humans! Upon hearing Heaven's equal's words, the other 4 Yuan Ko great sages, who were feeling a little ashamed, immediately clenched their fists. At the same time, cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Yes, if they had dared to make a move at that time, the 4 of them would probably have died instead. Even if we killed the 4 of them, so what? The dimensional rifts will continue to appear, and new Yuan Ko great sages will enter this world. However, our lifespans are not endless. While we are alive, we can suppress the heavens and give humans freedom. However, after we die, the Yuan Ko great sages will make a comeback, and humans will never be able to obtain true freedom. I Ching's words caused heavens equal Jiandi and heavens equal Jiandi to sink into deep thought. They had to admit that I Ching's words did make sense. Therefore, after I discovered the truth about humans 800 years ago, I thought hard for a long time and realized that what humans actually needed was not freedom but safety. Safety is always ranked above freedom. This is the most important thing. If humans lost their lives, what was the point of freedom? After that, I discovered that, after being brainwashed by the heavenly court, apart from losing a certain amount of freedom, humans were actually surprisingly safe. The heavenly court would no longer kill humans. Instead, they could provide humans with a relatively safe area so that humans could leave the protection of the city walls and obtain personal freedom and safety within a certain range. This was what humans truly needed. Later on, I understood that the heavenly court was actually not the enemy of humans. Instead, it could act as the protector of humans. As long as the heavenly court was powerful enough to expand to the entire earth, the freedom and safety of humans could similarly extend to the entire earth. All humans had to pay was a meager price and faith. I've looked up information from before the Great Calamity. During the Middle Ages, humans lived in a world where humans and gods intermingled. The gods were high and mighty and were worshipped by humans, while humans could obtain relative safety by praying for the gods' blessings. This pattern had been going on for thousands of years during the Middle Ages, and humans were already used to it. Countless humans in the Middle Ages pursued the pinnacle of life, such as ascending to immortality. Those gods did not cause any harm to humans and instead protected them. Isn't this the most suitable method for humans? Isn't this the method that can give humans the greatest safety and freedom? All I'm doing is returning humans to the Middle Ages where humans and gods intermingled. Moreover, as long as I can join the heavenly court and become the great emperor of the earth in the center of the heavenly court, I can obtain eternal life as well. As long as I'm in the heavenly court, I can protect humans from being exploited and oppressed by the heavenly court. I can protect the safety of the entire human race. This is the true safety and eternal way for humans. Therefore, in order to realize this dream of mine, I need to join the heavenly court and gain its trust. I need to become one of the supreme beings in the heavenly court. Therefore, I need to use your lives to prove my worth. Even if I have to sacrifice the only 2 Jiandi, I won't hesitate. At this point, I Ching's speech finally ended. All the 6 great sages were silent. Among them, the 2 Jiandi were probably the most at a loss and the most confused. They believed what I Ching said because deep down in their hearts, they always felt that I Ching was a woman who fought for the sake of humanity. She would not betray the entire human race for her own benefit. However, they could not figure out the reason for I Ching's betrayal. Now that they heard I Ching's words, they finally understood why I Ching would betray them. At the same time, although they were reluctant, they vaguely felt that I Ching was right. She was right. What she said was indeed the best home for the human race. She had betrayed them for the sake of humanity. At this thought, Ping Tian and Qi Tian's minds were in a mess. They did not know what to say or do. They did not know if they should treat I Ching as a friend or an enemy. Therefore, the entire underground palace fell into silence. No one stood up to break the silence until Gohan spoke. What about now? Ching-er, do you still have the same idea as before? Do you want to build a theocratic society like the Middle Ages? Gohan stood up and asked I Ching. No, I don't. I've thought it through. I was too naive back then. I thought that building a theocratic society would allow humans to live in peace. However, I've forgotten one thing. I Ching replied. What did you forget? Qi Tianjin raised his head and asked. I forgot. Back then, our ancestors put in a lot of effort to break free from the theocratic society of the Middle Ages. They obtained freedom of thought and will. In just a few hundred years, they surpassed the human race's development over thousands of years. A theocratic society might have its benefits, but it's also like a shackle that will firmly lock the human race down. Although humans will be safe, they will forever lose the possibility to develop and move forward. My actions might be beneficial for the time being. However, in the long run, after thousands or tens of thousands of years, humans will hate me as the ancestor who shackled them. Be it suffering or death, these are all experiences that humans must go through. Once humans can break free from this tragic world and eliminate all their enemies, they will be able to break free from the cocoon and be reborn. Just like the great changes that the first industrial revolution brought to mankind, mankind will step into a brand new era. I Ching. After listening to I Ching's words, Qi Tianjin and Ping Tianjin's expressions instantly became extremely excited. They looked at I Ching with bright eyes as if they were completely convinced by I Ching. Yes, that's right. Qi Tianjin and Ping Tianjin were completely convinced by I Ching's words. They took the initiative to stand beside I Ching and stretched out their right hands to I Ching. I Ching stretched out his left hand and grasped both of their hands tightly. Then what should we do? It seems like we have another powerful opponent, the human race. The remaining 4 great sages of Yuanko smiled wryly and said to each other warily. At the same time, they began to observe their surroundings, trying to find a way to retreat. If I Ching, Qi Tian, and Ping Tian were to join forces, they would be nothing more than cannon fodder. The 4 of you, don't go. I still have something to say to you. I Ching noticed the 4 great sages' actions and took the initiative to walk in front of them. Qi Tian and Ping Tian followed behind I Ching silently as if they were his subordinate. I plan to destroy the heavenly court, I Ching said calmly. I need your strength. I can swear on my sword mark that after the heavenly court is destroyed, as long as the 4 of you don't attack humans, the 3 of us won't attack you either. I've said it before, the 3 of us will die in the end. After all, this is the world of the later generations. Let our later generations deal with the 4 of you. What you said is true. You really won't attack us? Hearing I Ching's words, the 4 great sages immediately asked impatiently. What they were most afraid of now was that I Ching would attack them. This kind of fear was even greater than the fear of the heavenly court. Of course, as long as you are willing to join forces with us to destroy the heavenly court, I Ching said. Deal. After looking at each other for a while, the 6 great sages finally reached a consensus again. The mission to destroy the heavenly court could finally be carried out. At this time, there were less than 24 hours left of the week. Chapter 13:25. There were only 24 hours left, so I Ching immediately said that they would attack the heavenly court now. Odin and the other great sages were worried about this. It was better for them to prepare a more appropriate battle plan. I Ching gave a domineering answer. With me here, what battle plan do you need? The great sages were speechless. But on second thought, this was indeed the truth. With I Ching, who could fight against 6 of them, and the 6 of them, the heavenly court would not be able to hold on no matter what. In layman's terms, as long as Ace went up, they would win. Just as everyone was about to charge toward the celestial court, the enemy came to them on their own. The scouts around the underground palace sent an urgent message. 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals were pressing down on the entire Xianying airport like dark clouds. Hurry up and move. Everyone, run. Hearing this news, the Yuan bandits instantly became extremely panic-stricken. Like headless flies, they scurried around the entire underground palace, planning to escape from here. "All of you, stop!" Lu Ban shouted, and the entire underground palace fell silent. "Comrades, why are you panicking?" Lu Ban's voice was full of vigor. He did not sound like a white-haired old man at all. "Running for our lives is a thing of the past. Now that we have the great sages again, we don't need to run away this time. We'll fight head-on with these heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals at Xianying Airport. We will avenge the 800 years of humiliation." "Reporting, Your Majesty. A large number of demons have gathered at the Xianying Airport. They are in formation at the same time. There are more than 100,000 of them." Above the clouds in the sky, the clairvoyant and clairaudient reported to the celestial emperors sitting on 5 cloud chairs. Among them, the celestial emperor sitting in the middle wore a golden imperial robe, while the other 4 celestial emperors wore white, red, green, and purple imperial robes respectively, representing the west, south, east, and north celestial emperors. "Ha ha! These ants actually jumped out and even dared to form a formation. I thought they would scatter like usual," Green Emperor Xiaohao said disdainfully. "Green Emperor, don't be careless. These demons are acting out of character. They actually took the initiative to fight. This means that they already have the confidence to fight. We have to be careful," Red Emperor South Pole Immortal said cautiously. "That's right. According to the heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals of the Thunder Department, the remnant souls of the 6 great guarding places have all disappeared without a trace. The subordinates we left there have all been killed. It seems like the rumors are true. These people have been trying to resurrect the 6 idiots from back then," White Emperor Gochin said. "We are the masters of kings, and the rest of them are just a bunch of monsters. 800 years ago we were able to destroy their souls, and 800 years later, we're nothing more than that. As long as we, the masters of kings, come forth in an upright manner, these monsters won't even be able to withstand a single blow, and they'll all be reduced to ashes," Purple Emperor Boikao said in a dignified but somewhat rigid manner. "They actually took the initiative to jump out and fight with me. This is beyond my expectations." The Jade Emperor, Hao Tian, who was sitting in the middle, finally said, "I thought these 6 fellows were scared out of their wits and would run away as soon as they were resurrected. Now, looking at the formation these demons have formed, it seems they have chosen to fight us head-on instead of running away. This is indeed out of my expectation. Yes, we've set up the inescapable snare formation in more than half of Shaanxi province in order to catch them one by one. Who would have thought that after waiting for a day or two, we still have to deal with them with such great fanfare?" South Pole Immortal Wang said with a wry smile. It turned out that the Heavenly Court had long been aware of the 6 Yuan Ko's plan to resurrect, and had long known about the secret base under Xianying Airport. However, after all, they had been enemies for so long. The 5 celestial emperors of the Heavenly Court had long seen through the minds of these 6 Yuan Ko's. They knew that they didn't have the guts to fight the Heavenly Court at all, and would definitely run away and hide in a safe place. Therefore, the Heavenly Court had set up the inescapable snare formation in more than half of Shaanxi province. They wanted to trap the 6 great sages in the formation while they were running away, and then concentrate their forces to destroy them one by one, easily strangling the 6 great sages. As a result, after waiting for almost 2 days, the inescapable snare formation did not gain anything useful except for killing some useless Yuan Ko minions. The 5 celestial emperors naturally thought that they had estimated wrongly. They felt that these 6 great sages still had some intelligence, so they could only turn a hidden arrow into a spear in the open. They led 100,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals in a dignified manner, intending to annihilate this wave of the biggest resistance force in one go. If these celestial emperors knew that the 6 great sages almost ran away separately, but were suppressed because of Lu Ban's performance, these celestial emperors would probably explode in anger. In less than 5 minutes, the celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the heavenly court arrived above Xianying Airport on the auspicious cloud. On the ground, more than 100,000 yuan-kos also set up a formation. One was the sky and the other was the ground. The two armies confronted each other on the ground and in the air. It was somewhat like a super decisive battle that would end the whole story. At first glance, the two armies seemed to be evenly matched. However, upon closer comparison, one would realize that the two armies were as far apart as the distance between heaven and earth, just like the distance between the two sides. The army of the heavenly court and the allied army of the Yuan bandits consisted of about 100,000 people each, but the soldiers of the heavenly court were all wearing shiny silver battle armors. These were not ordinary battle armors, but battle armors made with the dimensional alloy technology of human beings. Every battle armor could withstand the strongest strike of the Soul Realm Yuan bandits. As for the Coalition Army's armor, the Coalition Army did not have armor at all. They were all in their original forms when they came to this world. Only a few yuan-kos wore armor brought from another world, while most of the Coalition Army's bodies were exposed. In terms of equipment, the Yuan-ko Coalition Army was completely outclassed. What was even worse was their aura. The celestial soldiers and celestial generals were all meticulously trained soldiers, and all of them were expressionless and as cold as the icebergs of the South Pole. They exuded a cold, murderous aura, and when these auras fused together, they were like 400-meter-long broadswords, causing the scattered Yuan-ko Coalition Army to tremble in fear. As for the battle formations of the two armies, well, there was nothing much to say. One side was an elite army, and their battle formations were perfect without any flaws. The other side was a mess, and one could tell at a glance that it was a hastily put-together battle formation. It looked like a line of elementary school students lining up to do radio calisthenics. Then there was the level of the two armies. The celestial soldiers and celestial generals of the heavenly court were standardized armies. Every celestial soldier and celestial general had at least the strength of a soul level, which was equivalent to a human treasure sword level sword wielder. As for the middle and low-level officers such as the captains, they had the strength of a flood dragon level or a dragon level, which was equivalent to a human famed sword level sword wielder. The high-level officers who led the troops were at least at the level of a nether-level yuan-ko. A rough estimate showed that in the Heavenly Court's army, there were more than 2,000 people who were equivalent to a famed sword level, and about 300 people who were equivalent to a spirit sword level. In addition, there were also Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals, who were responsible for holding the line between the various troops. Each of them was equivalent to a human immortal sword level sword wielder, and there were more than 20 of them. Looking at the Yuan-ko Coalition Army, in terms of the low-level combat power, the performance was uneven. Although the Ghost level and Soul level Yuan-ko were the main force, there were also some Mouse level and Tiger level Yuan-ko. Then there was the middle-level combat power. In this, the Yuan-ko Coalition Army had a slight advantage. There were more than 3,000 Flood Dragon level and Dragon level Yuan-ko, which was more than the number of people in the Heavenly Court. However, in terms of the high-level and top-level combat power, the Yuan-ko Coalition Army was completely defeated. There were less than 100 Nether-level and Meteor-level Yuan-ko, which was far less than the 300 in the Heavenly Court. And there were only 2 Universe-level Yuan-ko, Artoria and Luban. Even if Liuyan Ling was included, there were only 3, which was a pitifully small number. The top combat power of the Yuan-ko Coalition Army was so pitiful because of the continuous killing by the Heavenly Court in the past 800 years. Whenever these 2 levels of Yuan-ko came to this world, they were often discovered by the Heavenly Court before they could familiarize themselves with this world. Then, the Heavenly Court mobilized an army to kill them on the spot. Many Yuan Ko returned to their own worlds after coming to this world for less than 3 days. When all the details of the two armies were exposed to the audience, none of them had any doubt that when the two armies collided head-on, the celestial soldiers and generals of the heaven would definitely wipe out these Yuan bandits as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. However, the two armies didn't start fighting immediately. It was hard to say what would happen in real life, but according to the routine in games and novels, at this time, the leaders of both sides would need to have a few verbal exchanges to show that they were on the side of justice, and then denounce the other side as traitors and so on. Even the heavenly soldiers and generals of the heavenly court and the Yuan Ko army were no exception to this. Soon, a gargantuan giant emerged from the ranks of the heavenly soldiers and generals. "Hey! I am the vanguard of the divine firmament pagoda-bearing heavenly kingly, the mighty spirit heavenly general. Today, the Jade Emperor has ordered me to subdue you. Quickly remove your disguise and submit to the heavens, lest all the beasts in this mountain be killed. If you say no, I'll turn you into dust." The mighty spirit god's voice was very loud, as if it could spread throughout the entire Shaanxi province. However, everyone was confused when they heard this. What the hell did he mean? Remove his disguise? All the beasts in the mountain? What the hell was this? "You idiot, what the hell are you talking about?" Pagoda-bearing heavenly kingly, who was standing behind the mighty spirit god, cursed with a livid expression. "This heavenly king, please forgive me. I said the lines I used to attack the demon monkeys. I only have these few lines in my life, it's very easy to say it wrong." The mighty spirit god rubbed his head in shame and tried to salvage the situation. "Hey! I am the vanguard of the divine firmament pagoda-bearing heavenly kingly, the mighty spirit heavenly general. Today, the heavenly emperor has ordered me to have a chat with my old friends. I wonder if you dare to meet him? Since the Jade Emperor wishes to meet us, there's no reason for us not to meet him." 6 bright voices came from the Yuan Ko coalition army at the same time. These 6 great sages walked out from the crowd and faced the heavenly court's soldiers and generals alone. On the other hand, the cloud chairs of the 5 heavenly emperors also floated out. The strongest forces of both sides, as well as old friends, officially met at this moment. Chapter 13:26. Everyone. I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect to see you again. The Jade Emperor looked at the 6 great sages in front of him and said with a smile. There was no tension before the start of the war. In fact, not only the Jade Emperor, but the other 4 celestial emperors also looked calm. Although they were one less than the other side, the Jade Emperor's strength was indisputable. In addition, the Jade Emperor had just been resurrected. His strength was certainly not as good as before. There was no possibility of the heavenly court losing this battle. At the same time, the heavenly court had set up the dragnet formation in advance, sealing most of Shaanxi province. Unless the formation was broken, the 6 great sages would not be able to escape from the dragnet formation. In the minds of the 5 celestial emperors of the heavenly court, the victory had been decided the moment they appeared. What they had to do now was just a game of cat and mouse. I would like to go to the heavenly court with you to talk about the interesting things in the past. I wonder if you would do me the honor and accompany me? The Jade Emperor asked with a smile. Are you kidding me? If we go to your heavenly court, will the 6 of us still be alive? Odin sneered. They had experienced the dangers of the heavenly court in the past. If it were not for the double agent I Ching leading the way, they would have been trapped in the many formations of the heavenly court. If they followed the Jade Emperor into the heavenly court now, they might not even have the chance to escape by self-detonation. So even if they killed the 6 great sages now, they would not follow the Jade Emperor to the heavenly court. That's a pity. The Jade Emperor sighed. Originally, I was thinking that my investiture of the gods still lacked a few positions for the horse protector and wanted you all to fill them up. But now, it seems that you all won't have this chance. Houtyen, I didn't expect that after 800 years, your mouth is still so annoying. Heaven's equal Jiendi said coldly. The position of the horse protector was somewhat related to Heaven's equal Jiendi. Hearing the Jade Emperor mention this position again, Heaven's equal Jiendi could not help but clench his fists. Heaven's equal, are you recalling the days when you were my subordinate and raised horses for me? Ha 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 ha. Emperor Qing Shaohao started to laugh wildly. Among the 4 great emperors, Shaohao was the only relative of the Jade Emperor. Therefore, he was the most arrogant and domineering among the 4 great emperors. Except for the Jade Emperor, no one else was worthy of his respect. Even the other 3 great emperors were the same, let alone Heaven's equal Jiendi. Back then, when Heaven's equal Jiendi was just a spirit sword-level sword wielder, he was once seduced by Fairy Xia of the Heavenly Court. He fell in love with her and decided to join the Heavenly Court. The Heavenly Court expressed that they wanted to confer a high position on Heaven's equal Jiendi. Heaven's equal Jiendi was quite looking forward to it. However, in the end, Heaven's equal Jiendi became the horse protector of the Heavenly Court and was severely humiliated by Emperor Qing Shaohao, who was in charge of the horse protector. In the end, he even raped Fairy Xia in front of Heaven's equal Jiendi. However, Fairy Xia's heart was already tied to Heaven's equal Jiendi. Therefore, she quickly committed suicide by exploding her real spirit. Heaven's equal Jiendi also stole the Jade Emperor's heavenly horse and escaped from the Heavenly Court. That was how the future Heaven's equal Jiendi came into being. From then on, Heaven's equal Jiendi completely gave up on the idea of reconciling with the Heavenly Court. He wholeheartedly thought about how to destroy the Heavenly Court and fight to the death with the Heavenly Court. When he did not see Emperor Qing Shaohao, Heaven's equal Jiendi could still maintain his rationality. He knew when to advance and when to retreat. He would not think about taking revenge on the Heavenly Court. However, when Emperor Qing Shaohao took the initiative to appear in front of Heaven's equal Jiendi and mentioned this matter, Heaven's equal Jiendi immediately fell into a state of rage. He picked up the Emperor's sword in his hand and rushed towards Emperor Qing Shaohao, who was in the air. If Wu Zetian and Ping Tian Jiendi had not reacted quickly and forcefully suppressed Heaven's equal Jiendi, the final battle would have already begun. Heaven's equal, don't forget about the plan to cover the sky. Ping Tian whispered in Heaven's equal Jiendi's ear. Only then did Heaven's equal Jiendi suppress his anger and return to his army. What a pity! This brat did not fall for it. Emperor Qing Shaohao shook his head. If Heaven's equal Jiendi had really attacked just now, he could have immediately joined forces with the other celestial emperors to severely injure Heaven's equal Jiendi. That way, the following battle would be much simpler and easier. Alright, Shaohao, you can leave first, Jade Emperor said to Emperor Qing. Hearing this, Emperor Qing retreated obediently. Jade Emperor continued, I will not speak to you anymore. I have already set up the inescapable snare formation around this area. You will definitely not be able to escape from here. You will definitely die. If you are willing to forsake the darkness and enter your celestial souls into the God's role, I can give you the title of Heavenly King. You will have the same status as pagoda-bearing Heavenly Kingly. Each of you will be able to lead 10,000 celestial soldiers and celestial generals. How about that? This is my sincerity. If you miss out on my sincerity this time, you will definitely not have another chance. What? You have already set up the inescapable snare formation? Wasn't this a formation that would take a day to set up? Did you already know about us? Yamata no Orochi said in horror. Haha. To tell you the truth, I had already set it up 2 days ago. I was just waiting for you fools to take the bait. Unfortunately, you are a little smarter than you were 800 years ago. You forced me to come out and meet you, Jade Emperor said with a cold smile. The 6 great sages were speechless. At the same time, they looked behind them with grateful eyes. There was Lu Ban and Gohan standing beside him. If these two had not stopped them in time, they would have been captured by the heavenly court. Then, they would really be dead meat. What a joke! What a joke! After a long silence, Ping Tianjiendi said with a sneer, "Who is that pagoda-bearing heavenly kingly? He is not even a celestial sword tier. At most, he is a spiritual sword tier. If we are on the same level as him, wouldn't we be the biggest joke in the world? Humph. You are all destined to die. With the position of heavenly king, you should kneel down and thank the heavens. How dare you speak so shamelessly?" At the side, pagoda-bearing heavenly kingly cursed loudly, his face red. Ping Tianjiandi's every word was a slap to his face. "I understand what you mean." The Jade Emperor waved his hand at pagoda-bearing heavenly kingly, indicating for him to shut up. Then he turned to Ping Tianjiendi and said, "What position do you want?" "About that." Ping Tianjiendi rubbed his chin. After thinking for a while, he suddenly asked, "I am very curious about one thing. What did you give Zhetian back then, that he was willing to betray us? Why are you mentioning that person?" Hearing Ping Tianjiendi mention Zhetianjiendi's name, the Jade Emperor's face clearly showed a displeased expression. However, this displeasure quickly dissipated. After all, he was a dead person. The Jade Emperor paused for a while before replying, "All right, there is no harm in telling you. I made up an official position for him out of thin air, calling him Great Sage Zhetian. He will enjoy the same status as us 5 heavenly kings, but he will not have any actual position. It will be an extremely carefree position." "I see. Jade Emperor, can you let us discuss this?" The 6 great sages looked at each other, then asked. "Go ahead." Because victory was already in his grasp, the Jade Emperor was relatively calm and tolerant. The 6 great sages immediately returned to the team and gathered with Lu Ban to discuss for a while. Then Wu Zetian took the initiative to stand up and say, "We've already comprehended the strength of the inescapable net formation 800 years ago. We don't expect to be able to escape from it. However, if the 6 of us gather all our strength and fight to the death, it is not impossible to replace a few of you. For example, this most annoying Green Larch." Wu Zetian's words scared Green Larch Xiaohao so much that he could not help but take a step back. Although Xiaohao was very proud and did not take these 6 great sages seriously, he knew that if these 6 great sages wanted to replace a few of them with the belief that they would definitely die, even the Jade Emperor would not be able to save him. Thinking of this, Green Larch began to feel afraid. "So you want to discuss terms with me? What terms do you have?" Jade Emperor asked with a frown. "It's simple. We don't want much. You give us 6 celestial Dharch positions and let us be on equal footing with you. We are willing to join the heavenly court and even send our true spirits into the investiture of the gods list. This way we will be a family. What do you think, Jade Emperor?" Wu Zetian asked with a smile. "That's impossible." Jade Emperor refused very decisively. The celestial Dharch position has long been fixed. It was written on the investiture of the gods list by ancestor Hong Jun and the 3 pure ones. How can I create 6 celestial Dharch positions for you? I can let you be like Zhetian Jiendi back then. I can give you the title of Great Sage, Heaven's equal, Great Sage who pacifies heaven, and the other great sages the same status as my celestial Dharch. This is already the biggest concession I can make. Don't try to lie to us. Ancestor Hong Jun and the 3 pure ones haven't come to this world. The investiture of the gods list is completely in your hands. You can add as many positions as you want. You don't need the permission of those 4 big shots." Wu Zetian exposed the Jade Emperor's lie. "Let's put our words here. Either you give us the position of Celestial Emperor, or we'll fight to the death. It won't be a problem to replace 2 of you." This Jade Emperor hesitated. Clearly, it was as Wu Zetian said. It was not impossible to increase the positions of the 6 celestial thearchs. Actually, it was not a big deal to give these 6 great sages celestial thearch positions. They were all positions in name. Under normal circumstances, if they were given, the Jade Emperor would not feel the pinch. However, to increase the position, he needed to rewrite the investiture of the gods list. Originally, the investiture of the gods list was decided by the 4 sages. Every official position on it was written by the sages themselves. Once he changed it, it was equivalent to offending the 4 sages. If the 4 sages did not come to this world, it would be fine. However, once they came to this world, he was afraid that he would have to bear the consequences. However, after hearing the declaration of the 6 great sages, Jade Emperor did not want his subordinates to be injured. Just as he was in a dilemma, an old voice broke the deadlock. "Your Majesty, I have an idea. I don't know if Your Majesty is willing to give it a try." Lu Ban took the initiative to stand up and said, "So it's you, Lu Ban. Fine, what good idea do you have? Tell me." Jade Emperor was no stranger to Lu Ban. After all, he was a guy who had fought with him for 800 years after the death of the great sages. Jade Emperor had long known Lu Ban as an opponent. "Why do we old guys have to do it? Why don't we let the little guys practice?" Lu Ban paused and then said, "We will each send 3 juniors below the celestial thearch level to compete. 2 out of 3 wins. If you win, we 6 great sages are willing to accept the position of great sage. At the same time, our true spirits will be on the investiture of the gods list. We will also completely surrender to the heavenly court and never rebel again. But if we win, the heavenly court will let the 6 great sages ascend to the throne. At the same time, these poor people will release the inescapable snare formation and give us back our freedom. How about that? Permission granted." The Jade Emperor's reply was very straightforward. Chapter 13:27. Chao Yu, are you sure your ability can cover the entire battlefield? In the Yuan Co-Alliance army, Lu Ban cautiously asked a middle-aged man with an unshaven beard and a very serious expression. Replying to Lord Lu Ban, "My ability isn't to cover a large area, but to cover 2 different armies from both sides." Chao Yu said indifferently, "Just now, I passed by the troops of several great sages. I have already marked both armies. Unless the other side completely admits defeat, my ability will still be effective even if the 2 armies are at the ends of the earth. Master Lu Ban, you should be worried about whether our 3 generals can win all 3 battles." Chao Yu's eyes were filled with worry. If they can't win all 3 battles, not only will my ability be of no help, but it will also cause great harm to our side. "Don't worry. The rest depends on Gahan and the others." Lu Ban nodded and looked at the 3 people at the front of the army. According to the agreement between the 6 great sages and the 5 heavenly emperors of the celestial court, other than the emperor's sword-level elites, each side could send out 3 elites to fight one-on-one battles. The results of the battles would determine the status of the 6 great sages in the celestial court after they surrendered. "The 6 of you, I'll count to 3. Then, we'll throw the names of our generals into the air at the same time to show fairness. How about that?" the Jade Emperor said with a smile. "No problem." Odin nodded. The Jade Emperor counted to 3. Then, the 2 of them threw their empty hands into the air at the same time. On the Jade Emperor's side, countless immortal cranes appeared out of thin air and formed the 2 big words Yang Jian in the air. On Odin's side, the 2 words Artoria were formed by endless flashing golden lightning. With that, the opponents for the first battle were decided. Yang Jian of the Celestial Court versus Artoria of the Alliance Army. They actually sent out Artoria first. Seeing that the Alliance Army had sent out Artoria, the immortal hermit of the South Pole said with a frown, "Clearly, The immortal hermit of the South Pole had planned for Artoria not to be the first contestant of the Alliance army. According to the immortal hermit of the South Pole's plan, the Alliance army would most likely send out a relatively weak contestant as a sacrifice in exchange for a chance of winning the next two battles. Therefore, the Celestial Court had placed Yang Jian, who was the weakest, first and the two stronger contestants in the last two positions. This was so that they could snipe Artoria. The Celestial Court knew their old rival Artoria all too well. Over the course of 500 years, Artoria had led her team into conflicts with the Celestial Court tens of thousands of times, and Artoria had the upper hand in almost every conflict. For example, Yang Jian had fought with Artoria more than 200 times in the last 500 years, and Artoria had the upper hand in more than 90% of the battles. If not for the fact that the Celestial Court's reinforcements had arrived quickly, Artoria would have killed Yang Jian several times over. In fact, no one in the entire Celestial Court dared to guarantee that they could defeat Artoria. And the last general who was originally scheduled to fight only had a 75% chance of winning against Artoria, which wasn't a surefire chance. Looks like we're going to lose the first battle. Seeing Yang Jian standing opposite Artoria with a bitter smile on his face, the White Emperor Go-Chun spoke in a manner that dealt a blow to their morale. If we lose, then we lose. They only have Artoria. Even the most arrogant Emperor Qing Shaohao did not have any confidence in Yang Jian and said the same disheartening words. It's fine. They only have Artoria. Jade Emperor said calmly. Actually, this is good. Artoria has defeated the weakest Yang Jian, so the remaining two will definitely win. We will still be the ones to win in the end. Your Majesty Jade Emperor is right. The four Celestial Emperors said in unison. The battle began when even the Celestial Court was extremely pessimistic about the outcome. Just as the Celestial Court had guessed, Yang Jian was no match for Artoria at all. Less than 20 minutes into the battle, Yang Jian was completely suppressed by Artoria. In the past, Yang Jian's mighty Ling's three-pointed, double-edged sword was no match for Artoria's Sword of the Lake. Every attack was predicted by Artoria. This made Yang Jian feel extremely sullen. Why does it feel like this Artoria's swordsmanship has improved by quite a bit? Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal Wang said in disbelief when he saw Yang Jian's sullen state. This woman, I've never seen her so terrifying before. White Emperor Go-Chun also couldn't help but exclaim. Very powerful. In terms of swordsmanship alone, I'm afraid none of the four of us are her match. Even Purple Emperor Boikao, who usually spoke very little, spoke up. Looks like an expert has taught this Artoria before. Jade Emperor, who was sitting in the middle, said thoughtfully. Compared to before, her swordsmanship has already transcended her fixed thinking. If a person wants to rely on their own strength to break through their fixed thinking, it's something that requires tens of thousands of years of training. It's impossible to do it in a short period of time. Her swordsmanship has probably been taught by an expert swordsman. Could it be that the two humans Jiendi taught her? This heaven-shrouding Jiendi is indeed powerful. With just a few words, he made my swordsmanship improve to this level. Artoria thought to herself as she enjoyed the thrill of fighting to her heart's content. The truth was just as the Jade Emperor had guessed. Artoria didn't improve with her own abilities, but with the help of an outsider. Originally, Gohan had planned to personally teach Artoria, but after seeing her swordsmanship, Gohan realized that his swordsmanship and Artoria's were in two different worlds. Artoria's swordsmanship was the most orthodox of the Western swordsmanship. It focused on each and every move using momentum to win. On the other hand, Gohan's swordsmanship was the exact opposite of Artoria's. Gohan's swordsmanship focused on nimbleness and variety. It was a traditional Eastern swordsmanship, with one move followed by 1,000 variations. To make an analogy, Gohan was like an F1 driver who drove a Ferrari, while Artoria was a special vehicle driver who drove a huge mining truck that weighed dozens of tons. Both of their skills were at the peak of their respective fields, but it was impossible for them to complement each other. Gohan's F1 driving skills could not be applied to a huge mining truck that weighed dozens of tons. On the other hand, I Ching gave Artoria a long list of suggestions for improvement after just one look at her swordsmanship. Moreover, these suggestions were all on the most important points, so Artoria's swordsmanship improved as if she was reborn, and she even began to touch the edge of the laws. As long as Artoria could master her swordsmanship, she would enter the realm of the laws and become a great sage in one fell swoop. Sword of Victory and Promised Victory. Under the impact of Artoria's final ultimate move, Yang Jian's armor was completely destroyed, and his body was covered with bone-deep wounds. Seeing that the situation was not good, Yang Jian immediately fled back to the Celestial Court's army, and the first battle ended with Artoria's victory. Your Majesty, I had a bad start and my skills are inferior. I am willing to accept punishment, Your Majesty. He was different from the rebellious Yang Jian in the real world, the one who did not care about his uncle, the Jade Emperor. In this dungeon world, Yang Jian was extremely respectful to the Jade Emperor, and did not dare to show the slightest bit of neglect. The Celestial Court in this dungeon world was too powerful, so powerful that the Celestial Court did not lack a fighter like Yang Jian. The Jade Emperor did not mind using his nephew's life to declare his authority. It's fine. I see that Artoria has improved a lot, and it's only natural that you lose to her. Go and rest. The Jade Emperor nodded, and did not make things difficult for his nephew. Your Majesty, who should we send out next? White Emperor Go-Chen immediately asked impatiently. It doesn't matter who we send out. They will definitely lose the next two battles. Green Emperor Xiaohao said smugly. Go invite the leader of the 8 immortals of the upper caves, pure Yang True Immortal Patriarch Lu, to come and fight. The Jade Emperor thought for a moment, then gave the order. Soon, a Taoist dressed in a bright red Taoist robe, with an orchid hairpin on his head, and a crimson peach-wood sword on his back appeared in front of the Jade Emperor. He clasped his hands towards the Jade Emperor. Your subject Lu Dongbin greets you, Your Majesty. I didn't want to trouble Patriarch Lu with today's matter, but this involves the dignity of the Celestial Court. Please, Patriarch Lu, teach these arrogant monsters a lesson. The Jade Emperor's expression was very kind, not at all like one would treat a subordinate, but like a close friend. This was very rare in the Celestial Court. However, this couldn't be helped, because Lu Dongbin's backing was very powerful. Lu Dongbin was one of the inner disciples of Taishang Laojun, and also the last disciple of Taishang Laojun. With the support of Taishang Laojun, Lu Dongbin's position in the Celestial Court was completely different. However, because Taishang Laojun did not come to this world, Lu Dongbin did not dare to be too presumptuous. He was very respectful to the Jade Emperor, and was very considerate of all kinds of etiquette. The Jade Emperor was very satisfied with this. Since Lu Dongbin showed enough respect to him, he would return the favor. This also gave Lu Dongbin a special position in the Celestial Court. I dare not disobey Your Majesty's order. I will kill that monster now, and raise the prestige of the Celestial Court. As expected, Lu Dongbin gave the Jade Emperor face. When Lu Dongbin leisurely walked out of the Celestial Court's formation, the Yuan Co-Alliance army also sent out their second opponent, Miss Liunyan Ling, who had an extremely ugly expression on her face. Chapter 1328. Liunyan Ling. The Heavenly Court's 5 celestial emperors were stunned when they saw Odin's name. They had never heard of this name before. Liunyan. Scarlet Emperor South Pole Immortal One muttered to himself. Why do I have a bad feeling about this? Could this woman be a descendant of the Liunyan family? White Emperor Go-Chen voiced out his guess. All 5 celestial emperors fell silent. They recalled the battle 800 years ago when they annihilated the human forces. They recalled Drifting Goblet's Jiendi, who fought against the 5 of them by himself. They recalled his terrifying swordsmanship, and their even more terrifying ancestor, Lu Nian. He was a terrifying person who killed 3 celestial emperors of the heavenly court. It can't be. We've already killed all the descendants of the Lu Nian family. We've never heard of anyone from the Lu Nian family's bloodline appearing in the past 800 years. Could this be a normal human who admired the Lu Nian family's reputation and gave herself the surname Lu Nian? Scarlet Emperor Gochun comforted himself after a moment of silence. That's right. That must be it. This Liu Nianling is definitely a fake. Ancestor Lu, you can easily kill this human. Azure Emperor Xiaohao suddenly roared, as if this could prove that Liu Nianling was a fake. Liu Nianling was very displeased. However, it was not because the celestial emperors doubted her, but because her heart was filled with the flames of jealousy. This Guhan just said that he liked her a few days ago. Now, he was completely with I Ching and was constantly lovey-dovey with her. It would be strange if Liu Nianling wasn't angry. Damn it. I'll never be jealous of an NPC. Liu Nianling warned herself, but the jealousy in her heart was still like a raging river. As a result, Ancestor Lu became the perfect target for Liu Nianling to vent her anger on. I'm Lu Dongbin, one of the Upper Cave 8 Immortals. May I ask if this lady is a descendant of the Lu Nian family? Before the battle began, Lu Dongbin announced his name in an elegant and proper manner, and then asked curiously. He really wanted to know if there were any descendants of the terrifying Lu Nian family that had survived. Looks like your hands are also stained with the blood of this world's Lu Nian family, aren't they? Liu Nianling glared at Lu Dongbin and retorted angrily. I did participate in Drifting Goblet Jiandi's attack, but I wasn't stained with Drifting Goblet's Jiandi's blood. He died by self-detonating his sword qi, and no one can touch Drifting Goblet's blood. I am Lu Shang Jiendi, and I also admire you greatly. I dare not be disrespectful. Lu Dongbin's tone was filled with respect. Oh, then do you know how you died? Liu Nianling did not answer Lu Dongbin's question, and instead retorted with a cold snort. Lu Dongbin's expression froze for a moment, and then he said stiffly, whether it's in the original world or in this world, I'm still alive and well. No one has the ability to kill me. Then I'll tell you. 327 years ago, you actually tried to sneak attack our Lu Nian family's 19th ancestor. In the end, our ancestor used the billion sword art to kill you on the peak of Mount Tai and turned you into minced meat. Liu Nianling sneered. Lu Dongbin was even more dumbfounded, and his expression became even more furious. This young lady's words are interesting. If I, Lu Dongbin, had died 327 years ago, then who is Lu Dongbin now? Could it be that I, Lu Dongbin, have transmigrated back again? You don't need to care about that. In any case, you died 327 years ago. Liu Nianling did not explain at all, and continued to say these strange words. In reality, Liu Nianling was not lying. Lu Dongbin had indeed died 327 years ago. However, that was in another world. At that time, the 19th ancestor of the Lu Nian family had just come out to travel, and he was only at the spirit sword level. As a peak universe level Yuan Ko, Lu Dongbin felt that he had a chance to sneak attack the Lu Nian family's ancestor. If it was a normal ancestor, this sneak attack would have won. Even the descendant of the Lu Nian family would not be able to close the gap between the two. However, the problem was that Lu Dongbin's sneak attack was the 19th ancestor of the Lu Nian family, the 4th and last ancestor of the Lu Nian family. Jiendi, this ancestor was a genius, and did not panic when facing Lu Dongbin's sneak attack. The two of them fought from the coast of the East Sea to the peak of Mount Tai. This was already an incredible thing. In the past 1,000 years of history, There were not many people who could fight with the universe-level Yuan Ko for so long as they were at the spirit sword level. As for defeating him, apart from Gohan, Lu Nianli, and I Ching, there was not a fourth person in the world who could do this. In the end, when they reached the peak of Mount Tai, the 19th ancestor of the Lu Nian family finally received support from a guest of the Lu Nian family. With the help of this guest, the 19th ancestor of the Lu Nian family successfully killed the famous universe-level Yuan Ko and the leader of the Eight Immortals, Lu Dongbin, on the peak of Mount Tai, establishing his unparalleled reputation. Of course, Lu Dongbin did not know what had happened in the real world, nor did he know that the real him was already dead. So, he only felt that Liuyan Ling's words were strange, like she was a madwoman. Enough with the nonsense. Watch my fire dragon sword. Lu Dongbin could not be bothered to talk to Liuyan Ling anymore. He formed a seal with both hands, and the fire dragon sword on his back flew out and attacked Liuyan Ling's soaring sky sword. Liuyan Ling patted her waist with her right hand, and her sword lady's soaring sky sword flew into the sky. Just like the fire dragon sword, without a master to control it, it began to attack her opponent in the sky. This was purely the swordsmanship of both sides, the purest contest between two swordsmen. However, it did not take long for Liuyan Ling to be at a disadvantage. Lu Dongbin was originally a master swordsman in the world. When he was still traveling in the human world, he had defeated all the swordsmen in the world with his fire dragon sword. He could be called a sword saint. After Lu Dongbin ascended to become an immortal, apart from drinking and having fun in the heavenly court, his greatest joy was perfecting his swordsmanship. After a few thousand years, Lu Dongbin's swordsmanship had already reached the point of perfection. He could be called the number one swordsman in the heavenly court. Before Artoria's transformation, Lu Dongbin's swordsmanship was on par with Artoria's. However, Lu Dongbin had just witnessed the entire battle between Artoria and Yang Jian. It made Lu Dongbin somewhat sorrowfully realize that as Artoria completed a crucial transformation, he was no longer her opponent. Therefore, Lu Dongbin was very eager to defeat this opponent in front of him and vent his frustrations. Although Liuyan Ling's swordsmanship talent was very high, it was not as terrifying as Lu Dongbin's. In addition, Lu Dongbin had immersed himself in swordsmanship for thousands of years. Liuyan Ling's accumulation could not be compared to Lu Dongbin's. If not for Liuyan Ling's unparalleled swordsmanship secret manuals from the Liuyan clan and the Liuyan clan's 20 years of meticulous nurturing, Liuyan Ling would have long been defeated by Lu Dongbin. Since when did the humans have an expert of this level? Lu Dongbin was also shocked by Liuyan Ling's swordsmanship. He was also very clear that the reason he could suppress Liuyan Ling's swordsmanship was because he had accumulated enough accumulation. If the 20-year-old Lu Dongbin faced Liuyan Ling's swordsmanship, he would have been killed in less than 10 seconds. This was a prodigy. In the future, she might even be a heaven-dominating Jiandi. At this thought, Lu Dongbin no longer held back. He used all his swordsmanship. Liuyan Ling was at a complete disadvantage in an instant. The soaring sky sword was forced back by the fire dragon sword, and Lu Dongbin's figure kept closing in on Liuyan Ling. At the same time, sparks of lightning appeared in Lu Dongbin's hands. This was Lu Dongbin's ultimate technique, the 9-yang true thunder. Boom! A bolt of 9 solar thunder exploded beside fleeting time Ling. The bolt of 9 solar thunder had appeared out of nowhere, and it had come without any warning. Normally, lightning would strike down from the sky. No matter how fast it was, one would be able to detect it and dodge it. However, this bolt of 9-yang true thunder seemed to strike down from the sky. The moment it appeared out of nowhere, Liuyan Ling reacted and began to retreat to the left. However, she was still struck in the thigh by this bolt of 9-yang true thunder. Ah! Liuyan Ling let out a cry of pain. Her entire body swayed, and the soaring sky sword that was dancing in the air seemed to have lost its commander. It stopped moving and was caught by the fire dragon sword. The soaring sky sword fell to the ground. Good. As expected of old Lord Taishang's disciple. A single bolt of 9 yang true thunder is enough to make your opponent lose her soul. A wave of cheers came from the Heavenly Court's camp. Everyone was cheering for Lu Dongbin's 9 yang true thunder. They felt that victory was in sight. Damn it! Is this Liunian Ling really the descendant of the Lunyan clan? Why is she so weak? She can't even take a single bolt of 9 yang true thunder. I can take 100 hits in a row without any problem. On the other side, the 6 great sages of the allied army had stiff expressions. They didn't expect that the mighty Liunian Ling would be so weak. She was beaten to this state by just a single bolt of 9 yang true thunder. If this goes on, they will lose without a doubt. What's going on? It shouldn't be. It's just a single bolt of 9 yang true thunder. She is a great firmament golden immortal. How can she be so weak? Seeing that his 9 yang true thunder had such a miraculous effect, even Lu Dongbin himself couldn't believe it. He couldn't understand what had happened. Damn it! Little sister Ling is in danger. On the other side, I Ching, who was hiding beside Gohan and disguised as an ordinary human, whispered to Gohan, "This 9 yang true thunder specializes in attacking the human soul. You all came to this dungeon in the form of a soul. This 9 yang true thunder is too much of a restraint on you. Moreover, it will really harm your soul. Your soul might really be destroyed in this dungeon." Chapter 1329. Will Liunian Ling be alright? Gohan couldn't help but worry when he heard I Ching's words. At the same time, he held the extinguished immortal sword in his hand. The moment the situation changed, Gohan would immediately take action. So the people from the Liunian family are so weak. Even a spirit sword wielder wouldn't be so badly injured after taking a 9 yang true lightning. Lu Dongbin was both surprised and disdainful when he saw half of Liunian Ling's body turn black. He was speaking the truth. With this kind of injury, this descendant of the Liunian family would die on the spot in at most 5 9 yang true lightning strikes. She was so weak that it was pitiful. Our Liunian family is not something you can insult. The heavily injured Liunian Ling raised her head. Her eyes were filled with anger. At the same time, countless rays of sword light shot out from the soaring sky sword in her hand. In less than a second, the area around Liunian Ling was filled with densely packed rays of sword light. There were so many of them that even the light of the sun in the sky was overshadowed. It was as if a new sun had appeared beside Liunian Ling. Oh my God! Just how many rays of sword light are there? Seeing so many rays of sword light, the spectators on both sides tried to estimate how many there were. In the end, they only took a rough glance. The sky was filled with so many rays that their heads were about to explode. How could they calculate the exact number of rays of sword light? 10, 100,000, 1 million, 6 million. However, it wasn't that no one could calculate the number of rays of sword light. The Scarlet Emperor's South Pole Immortal One took a few rough glances and said with certainty, "There are about 6 million rays of sword light." 6 million. The Jade Emperor's expression turned ugly. There's no mistake now. This woman is indeed the descendant of the Liunian family. Only the 100 million sword technique of the Liunian family can produce 6 million rays of sword light at the immortal sword rank. The Jade Emperor could not help but recall the most thrilling battle that had taken place over 800 years ago. Including the Jade Emperor himself, 5 heavenly emperors of the heavenly court had besieged Sword Emperor Liutu. In the end, Sword Emperor Liutua had fought against 5 alone. In the beginning of the battle, he had even gained the upper hand and almost killed the Jade Emperor several times. If it wasn't for the Heavenly Court's meticulous strategy to deplete the sword essence in Drifting Goblet Jindi's body, the outcome of the battle would have been uncertain. If Drifting Goblet's Jiandi's sword essence had doubled, the entire battle would have changed. The Jade Emperor could still remember Drifting Goblet's terrifying sword light. When Drifting Goblet was at its peak, Jiandi could release 40 million rays of sword light. The 40 million rays of sword light covered the entire Yanjing city. The Jade Emperor would occasionally think of that terrifying scene in his dreams. It became one of the few sources of nightmares for the Jade Emperor. So when the Jade Emperor saw Liu Yanling's 6 million rays of sword light, he knew that Liu Yanling's surname was not fake. She was the true descendant of the Liuyan clan. Lu Dongbin, who was supposed to win, was in big trouble this time. Lu Dongbin was at a complete disadvantage the moment Liu Yanling revealed her billion sword art. Or rather, he was forced to flee. The rays of sword light chased after Lu Dongbin like mad dogs, not giving him a chance to stop. Lu Dongbin had tried to resist these sword lights, and the sword lights themselves weren't very strong. Lu Dongbin could destroy over 100 of them with a swing of his sword, but the problem was that there were simply too many of them, and they kept attacking Lu Dongbin from all directions. Lu Dongbin destroyed over 100 sword lights on one side, but over 1,000 sword lights on the other side stabbed into Lu Dongbin's body. Lu Dongbin cultivated the pure yang body tempering technique, a technique that focused on the physical body. Logically speaking, it should not be a problem for the rays of sword light to stab into his body. That was what Lu Dongbin thought in the beginning. He felt that his physical body was very strong, so he did not focus the rays of sword light on his body. When the rays of sword light pierced through his body and attacked his immortal force, Lu Dongbin realized to his horror that the rays of sword light could ignore his physical body's defenses to a certain extent. The 1,000 rays of sword light had caused him to lose about 0.5% of his immortal force. 0.5% did not sound like much, but it was only the effect of 1,000 rays of sword light. As long as 200,000 of the 6 million rays of sword light pierced into Lu Dongbin's body, Lu Dongbin's immortal force would be depleted, and he would become immortal. Lu Dongbin could neither block it nor defend against it. The only thing he could do now was to escape. The sword lights that followed behind him were like stray dogs, and Lu Dongbin had become an unlucky beggar who was being chased and bitten by the stray dogs. Lu Dongbin also tried to use the 9 Yang True Thunder, which he had just seen miraculous effects, to deal with Liu Yanling. If he could make Liu Yanling eat a few more rays of 9 Yang True Thunder, then he would be able to directly kill his opponent. However, Liu Yanling had learned her lesson this time. She no longer stood still like before, but constantly moved at high speed in the air. This made Lu Dongbin completely at a loss. The 9 Yang True Thunder was not an instantaneous skill. It required about 2 seconds to cast. 2 seconds was enough for Liu Yanling to move several kilometers. Unless Lu Dongbin could predict Liu Yanling's position 2 seconds later, the 9 Yang True Thunder would not be able to hit her at all. This is bad. If this continues, Ancestor Lu will definitely lose. The Jade Emperor frowned deeply. Then, he said something to the Immortal Hermit of the South Pole. The Immortal Hermit of the South Pole nodded and disappeared from his throne. He only returned after 5 or 6 seconds. "Did you manage to borrow it?" the Jade Emperor asked anxiously. "Yes, I did." The Immortal Hermit of the South Pole opened his right hand. 9 small dragons were constantly circling on his palm, forming a large bell-like object. But Junior Brother said that the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier won't last long against the 6 million rays of sword light. If Ancestor Lu doesn't have a way to break the enemy, then he will still lose. No matter. After all, Ancestor Lu is the last disciple of old Lord Taisheng. He must have a trump card. The Jade Emperor nodded. The Immortal Hermit of the South Pole sent the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier into the void. In the next second, the void around Lu Dongbin was broken, and the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier automatically emerged from the void. Shameless. Jade Emperor, you're shameless! Seeing the immortal hermit of the South Pole give a magic treasure to Lu Dongbin, the 6 great sages who were watching the battle immediately jumped out and made a ruckus. Nonsense! I'm not that kind of person, the Jade Emperor said in an inviolable manner. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier is Ancestor Lu's magic treasure, but he lent it to you a few days ago. Now, he's just returning it to him. How is this shameless? This shameless guy. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier is clearly Lord Tai's magic treasure. When did it become Ancestor Lu's? Wu Zetian, who was familiar with the heavenly court, cursed. Lord Tai gave the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier to Ancestor Lu 100 years ago, so it is Ancestor Lu's magic treasure now. The Jade Emperor said calmly. He looked at the 4 great emperors around him and gave him a thumbs up, as expected of the central Jade Emperor. Not only was his magic power powerful, his skin was also so thick. Bah! Who doesn't know that the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier is Lord Tai's natal magic treasure? There's no reason for a natal magic treasure to be given away. This is utter nonsense. The 6 great sages were even more dissatisfied. The 6 of you, please be careful with your words and actions. Otherwise, I can take back my promise at any time and fight with you all. When the Jade Emperor heard the words of the 6 great sages, he glared at them and directly threatened to cancel the competition. This could be said to be the Achilles heel of the 6 great sages. They proposed the competition because they felt that they were no match for the heavenly court and did not want to start a war with the heavenly court. After being threatened by the Jade Emperor as expected, they fell silent. In the end, it was Odin who asked helplessly, "May I ask, Jade Emperor, what other magic treasures did Ancestor Lu leave with you? Please tell us now, lest there be another dispute later." "None." The Jade Emperor shook his head. He had already acted shamelessly once. If he continued, even the Jade Emperor's thick skin wouldn't be able to hold on much longer. Therefore, both sides tacitly agreed that the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier was Lu Dongbin's magic treasure. Open for me. On the other side, the moment Lu Dongbin received the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier, he madly urged his magic power into it. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier expanded to the size of a house in an instant, sheltering Lu Dongbin's entire body within it. No matter how the sword lights attacked, the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier did not budge. Lu Dongbin could finally stop and rest for a while. The 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier was the natal magic treasure of Lord Tai. If others wanted to use it, they had to destroy the mark left by the original owner in the magic treasure. However, Lord Tai had lent it to Lu Dongbin on his own initiative, so that the mark he left in the magic treasure could fully cooperate with Lu Dongbin. Only then could Lu Dongbin use the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier. Liu Ling manipulated her sword lights to constantly attack the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier. But after 100,000 sword lights, the 9 dragons on the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier let out shrill screams, but the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier itself remained as stable as Mount Tai, showing no signs of being broken. This broken barrier. It really is as annoying as the books say. Fleeting Ling mumbled in a hushed tone. He knew very well about the 9 dragons' divine fire shroud. In the real world, Heavenly Premier Extreme Celestial had been killed by a patriarch of the fleeting family. Naturally, the patriarch would have a deep understanding of Heavenly Premier Extreme Celestial's magic treasure. According to this ancestor's diary, the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier could be said to be one of the nemeses of the Billion Swords technique. The sword lights of the Billion Swords technique could not penetrate the defense of the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier, and the only way to break through it was to use sword lights. Back then, the ancestor had used nearly 2 million sword lights to break through the 9-dragon heavenly fire barrier. Like Liu Ling, this ancestor was also an immortal sword wielder. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.